Okay, good day, good evening, ladies and gents, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to Splendid Isolation number 12, and I'm going to do what I always do and start us off with a tune, and tonight's one is Scottish. Where are we? All right.
For good surgeons can pray the Black Watch, the markets and fair summary, goods for the catch, and all that they listed was 40 and 12. Let's me bonny laddie and come away. For it's over the mountains and over the main, it's through Gibraltar, they France and Spain, a Malate, a bonnet, and the kilt of your knee. And let's be bonny laddie, and come away with me. No laddie, and you can the danger that you're in. If your horse is worth the flag, or your house is worth the rent, let's be all farmer, wouldn't buy your fee. And let's be bonny laddie, and come away with me. For it's over the mountains and over the main, it's through Gibraltar, they France and Spain, a Malate, a bonnet, and the kilt of your knee. And let's be bonny laddie, and come away with me. It's in the burn, I'm due by the fire. This greedy old farmer thinks you'll never tire. It's a slave or a job, and the Lord agree. And let's be bonny laddie, and come away with me. For it's over the mountains and over the main, it's through Gibraltar, they France and Spain, a Malate, a bonnet, and the kilt of your knee. And let's be bonny laddie, and come away with me. Now we are talking and your mill and kale, your sur and your every day, your buttermilk and whey, I and breed fire raw. And let's be bonny laddie, and come on. For it's over the mountains and over the main, it's through Gibraltar, they France and Spain, a fella, they are bonnet, and the kilt of your knee. And let's be bonny laddie, and come away with me. You got the bed and the sweetheart on the bed, you'll easily get rid of that Elspeth yarn, the rattle of the drum, I and that let the door. And let's be bonny laddie, and come on home. For it's over the mountains and over the main, it's through Gibraltar, they France and Spain, a banner, they are bonnet, and the kilt of your knee. And let's be bonny laddie, and come away with me. For it's over the mountains and over the main, it's through Gibraltar, they France and Spain, a banner, they are bonnet, and the kilt of your knee. And let's be bonny laddie, and come away with me.
Okay, that was Twa Recruiting Sergeants, which is a traditional Scottish song, and it was originally based on the Black Watch, the 42nd Highlanders, a very famous Highland regiment of the British Army. Okay, this evening we have Unwashed, Adaman, and Sojo. How you going, gents?
Can't complain, lads.
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. Hope you're all well.
Okay, well, I'm going to do what I usually do, and I'm going to go around with our newest guest, Unwashed, first, and then I'll ask Adam and Sojo. Unwashed, anything you particularly want to bring up to start with in terms of stuff that's relevant to UK news stories and what have you?
Well, yeah, I was saying to you before we started that, like, the whole of the last year, because it's nearly a year of the house arrest. The whole of the last year it's been pretty boring for most of it. And then this week we got kind of bludgeoned with psyops. Like, I don't really want to talk about Meghan Markle and Harry, and I don't really want to talk about this woman that got murdered in London. But the way that both stories are kind of used to bludgeon us over the head for a full week, it was like it's like the guilt from 2015 or 16 has just come back full force, and you're kind of like, oh, I thought we dealt with this, but no, it's still here. Does that make sense?
Yep, indeed. What about you, Adam and Sojo? You got anything to say about those particular stories and the thing about the curfew for men, which I thought was utterly ridiculous?
I'm not sure about the curfew for men thing. I saw it briefly. She's claiming it was some kind of satire.
But then didn't the leader of the Welsh Parliament say he wouldn't rule it out?
He did,
Yeah,
and the thing about him is, like, he banned clothes last year, so there is no telling what this man will do. There's no limit.
I think whenever they do this, there's always like an underline, isn't there? There's sort of like they want to pull back and say, "Oh, I'm just joking, guys," but there's always kind of an aspect to which they're just trying to test the waters.
Yes, they're testing how far it can go, and my question is, like, well, obviously they're not going to ban men after 6 o'clock. That's not realistically on the table. But what's the pullback from this going to be? Because, like, if you look at the statues, they were like, we need to tear down Nelson's column and Winston Churchill, and the answer to that is no. But then in comparison, like, they're like, well, we can have Edward Colston, right? No one's going to complain about that, and no one really does. You know, that goes in the harbour. So I'm wondering, maybe men won't be allowed out after 10. Maybe they plopped 6 on the table so that 10 or 11 is our shutaway time. But the fact that it was a police officer it should be the main story.
Yeah, and not just a police officer. He was an armed police officer of some special protection squad. So you would have thought they would have done a bit of digging into it, really, wouldn't you?
I have no idea how many women are taken in by this narrative. How much support does it actually have? Because, yeah, that's just one tiny detail. Right, it was a police officer. So whatever measures you're proposing to make the streets safer, well, how can you trust the people that are going to be doing it?
What was Sojo, Adam? What do you think about that stuff?
I'll let Sojo have this one.
Go on then, Sojo. What do you think, mate?
Well, I don't know. I'm sort of just looking at my Twitter timeline, and there's a lot of people who are actually sort of defending the women on their little protest. I just find it really strange, actually, because again, it just reminds me of its shades of the summer when I remember being back in the UK and watching Sky News, and there's one segment about like Black Lives Matters protesting in London. There's no mention about COVID whatsoever, and then they switch to another news segment, and they're complaining about white people on the beach spreading COVID everywhere. Has anybody mentioned that this vigil is a super spreader event yet, or has that just been sort of swept under the rug?
We don't really have to bother anymore. It's like, this was obvious last summer, right? It was like, okay, as long as you're protesting for virtuous reasons, then Sadiq won't tell you off. And this time it's come around again. It's like, oh, again, you're allowed to like do stuff as long as you proclaim it's for this reason, and we're still stuck.
Yeah, but I think here's something interesting about this situation, because it's in London. It's the Met Police, right? So it's actually under the control of Sadiq Khan, right? The Metropolitan Police. It's not actually
and Cressida Dick.
And Cressida Dick. So it's actually quite a funny situation in the sense that you've got a woke police, a police force, sort of cracking skulls, as it were, of these sort of SJW protesters in London. It's not a particularly good look for them.
Is that what's been going on today, then? Has there been like a decent crackdown on the vigil?
From what I've seen on Twitter, yeah. So I saw what's the name of that channel? What is it? We got a problem, or something like that.
Lads.
Yeah, yeah. Basically, it doesn't look good, and a lot of people on my timeline are sort of getting behind the protesters, which is, I'm kind of surprised by that.
No, I'd be fine for that because, like, yeah, the anti-lockdown is still the main thing for me. So anytime anyone's breaking any rules, I'm pretty happy about it because I'm not the one doing it, so I'm happy to watch.
Yeah, sorry, it was subject access, not we have a problem.
Right.
It's just, I mean, look, the way I would look at this is in terms of Indigenous white British blokes. If I was a woman, I would actually like more Indigenous white British blokes on the street because, if a couple of blokes had been walking along when that woman was kidnapped, maybe she would have got saved.
Well, this is it, though. I think the women who acknowledge, like, the ethnic component to this question are in a very small minority. Women just won't go near this. If you point out, hey, do you really think you're at risk from me? Because I can promise you you're not.
Well, I mean, look, any ethnic group can kill people. I mean, the white armed policeman who killed that poor woman was obviously a white guy. But the point is, it's not a general thing with men. Most men are not murderers, surprisingly enough,
Well, I think if, like, with diversity quotas and everything getting more feminized, I mean, it's pure nepotism, isn't it? It's these people, women, are just like the gays. That, like, they will scream that they're underrepresented even when they're running everything. Like, you could easily turn around and go, right, Cressida Dick, that's a woman, runs the Met. Our last prime minister was a woman. Head of state is a woman. Most of the party leaders by this point are women, aren't they?
Well, Cressida Dick's also a lesbian, isn't she? I believe.
I
mean, openly so, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, don't really believe in lesbians, so I don't know how to interpret that.
But, yeah, I think most girls can do that if they're in the mood to do it. But I mean, it's a different story.
Like, no, it's about the nepotism. Like, most of the footage I've seen, and actually in person, most of the times I've seen coppers within basically since the lockdown, like more than 50% of the time they've been female, and that's just concerning in itself to me because it's like, well, you can't really do anything in a and I think that this is they're just going to keep going with this. They're never going to notice that this might be making them less safe, not more.
Yeah, I think there's much truth in that. I mean, but it's the whole idea that you can only be racist to white people in the modern Western world. It's the only people you're allowed to be racist to, and the main people you can be racist and prejudiced against is straight white men. I mean, this is just so obvious now. It's across movies, it's in advertisements, it's on the news. It's like every single thing you watch has got that not actually very subtle underlying propaganda.
Now, I know you don't want to talk Harry and Meghan, but like, I got one observation from this week that I think it shows how far we've fallen, and it says a lot about like the royal family and just how little control they have over anything. There was this reporter, this journalist, who went up to Prince William and said, is the royal family a racist family, sir? And it's just like, how many decades ago, or would it have been before that, for that to be considered like treason? Or you get your head chopped off for running up to the prince and going, is the family racist, sir? It's insane, the standards in the country that someone can go and do that, and he just. Has
I just think, look, I like I said, I don't really want to talk about this a lot because I think it's been done to death by everybody. But my observations about this are that Prince Harry is almost certainly the son of a British Army officer rather than Prince Charles. I mean, just look at him and look at the British Army officer concerned. But he went and saw active service in Afghanistan. I believe he was a Apache attack helicopter pilot, and he seemed to be like doing his job just like everybody else, which good on him. I think that Diana, Princess Diana, would have been what my grandfather's generation would have called a loose woman. Like, she knocked around with quite a few different blokes when she was married. And yeah, Charles did the same thing. I'm not saying that, but you can't blame Harry for what his mother did. But marrying a vile bitch like Meghan Markle and then totally cucking to her, you can totally blame him for that. It's just appalling.
Yeah, I think people have far too much sympathy for Harry. I don't know why people are feeling sorry for him, because this is all his own making. He is free
have you seen the house they're living in? On my Minds channel, I actually reminded a post from somebody else that had a picture of the house that Harry and Meghan Markle are living in, which is a huge mansion with 2 swimming pools. They're not exactly doing it tough,
Well, I didn't think that they were. No, it was. No. I mean, we're just focusing on everyone can see that this is in some sense an abusive marriage, really. Something is not right here. It's definitely not built on love, whatever's going on this public stage. But everyone hates her and doesn't blame him. And I think that, again, that says a lot about masculinity. Why aren't men furious at this?
Yeah, he should be standing up. Yeah. Yes, exactly. He should either stand up to her or he should leave before she leaves him, which I think will happen eventually anyway.
Oh, just do anything. Just tell her no once. To anything. Yep. She could improve. He could improve her as a woman by just telling her no.
Maybe. I'm one of those people who thinks you can't turn a whore into a housewife, but that's just me. But there we go. But I just think the spectacle of duchesses sitting on multi-millionaire Oprah Winfrey's channel moaning about how hard done by they are should make most average people vomit. Basically, it should.
Well, this is why I'm referring to them this week as just psyops, is because the irony of this is so obvious that you don't need to point it out. Like millionaires and billionaires whining about how oppressed they are. Like, everyone knows that this is a farce. And it's the same with the sort of vigil stuff, because I think that even though the police are cracking down on these women with their candles or whatever, the Guardian, etc., has been encouraging it all week, which is another slap in the face to us, straight white men who aren't allowed to leave their homes. We have had our balls truly taken, and now they're rubbing it in our faces.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. Adam and Sojo, you got anything to add to that stuff?
No. I mean, the Meghan Markle thing's kind of quite bizarre. I don't did you see some of the body language during that? I know some YouTubers have commented on some of it already.
I didn't watch it, mate, but I did hear some comments about it, yes. I didn't watch it. I'm afraid I've got a limit for how much bullshit I can watch on TV or on the computer,
Their relationship, as people were critiquing, is not actually that dissimilar from most modern relationships, which in itself is kind of worrying.
That's pretty scary if that's true.
That is unpleasant.
So, Joe, what do you reckon?
Well, my thought was that if it really is true that Harry is the son of, what is it, James Hewitt, right? Duke?
Yeah, I'm pretty certain he is.
If that is the case, then the question I've got is, how badly do the royals want to survive as an institution, and are they willing to throw Harry under the bus? Because in my view, if they don't do that, if they don't play that nuclear, like that hand, then they don't really have the will to survive, do they? So I would, even though technically he is, William's brother, of course, and maybe not Charles's son,
half brother, yeah.
But I would, I would sacrifice him for the family. That's the sort of thing that I want to see. That they, as an institution, have they got the balls to say we're going to throw this guy under the bus for what he's done? Because it's like, if anybody in my family sort of aired dirty laundry in public like that, I would be like, yeah, let's we got to cut this guy loose or girl.
Yeah, I mean, also contrast Meghan Markle with Harry's half brother's Mrs. Kate, who basically never says anything as far as I can see, and seems a perfectly nice lady.
I have to say that I really like William and Kate.
Yeah,
they are.
They seem all right.
I could only dream of meeting a woman like her. Really, when I see the photos of them, that like some of my mutuals on Twitter post, it's like, yeah, I wish I could meet a girl like that.
She's a nice girl. She does. Grief. Good evening, mate. How are you going? Hello, Grief.
He's failed.
Yeah, he's there, but I think he's not. Maybe he thought we were still talking. Well, that's okay. He'll be around in a minute, I dare say.
Yeah, it's definitely a microphone issue. I'm sure he's not just shy.
Oh, hang on. He's muted, actually. His microphone's muted.
He's probably gone to get a drink.
Oh, yeah, probably. Yeah, could be. Yeah, no worries. Adaman, anything you want to bring up to start the show? That because I know last week you had something and we never got round to it. So this week I want to make sure you can bring up anything you want to.
I remember what that was, to be fair. I suppose going off the last point, like I'm quite a big time monarchist, right? I think in one of my videos I said something like, I wouldn't want to see constitutional monarchy as an idea disappear. And when I listened to that back, I thought, God, that's fucking cringe. I do want to see monarchy as an institution, constitutional monarchy disappear, and absolute monarchy come back. But one of the criticisms you could make of all the shit ones that people bring out, one of the good criticisms you could make of it is that, like, if you look at the current royal family, they're not going to do the right or the heroic thing against Harry, because at the end of the day, that is her grandson. And there's always going to be that pang of attachment there that they can't let go. I mean, Prince Charles, despite all his criticisms, bought them their house out in California that they're living in now.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Look, I think that Sergio made a good point in that you don't have to be the royal family. You could be any family almost, certainly any public family. And if somebody like Meghan Markle does what she did, then I think that's sufficient reason to say, no, you can't do that shit, mate. You know? I don't think it's even a royal issue. I think Sergio was quite right. And that, like any family, certainly if they're a public family, should be able to do that.
Oh yeah, I 100% agree. But like one of the problems is that in the way it is now, Harry can just if the family cuts Meghan out, which they've done anyway, Harry can just go, I'm standing by my wife, and that's considered the brave position in the public.
Yeah, but that's why I bring up the DNA thing, because if that is true, if he's actually not essentially legitimate, then there's what's the issue? That I would just play that card. It's half and ruthless, but I don't.
But isn't it also super risky though?
Yeah, they'll never play that card, Sergio. They won't come out.
Why is it risky though?
Because they don't have the power to memory hole it if it turns out not to be true. I mean, if let's say it was like Tony Blair had an illegitimate son, right? And let's say he wanted to try and prove it, and he got a DNA test, and it turned out it was actually just his son, and he kind of had some responsibility for it. He could just have that memory hold, if he was still in power through Alistair Campbell and all those sorts of things. But the royal family doesn't really have that power anymore.
Incidentally, just like on a slight tangent, because like I said, I don't want to spend too much time on this because I think everyone's done this subject to death. But on a slight tangent to it, I think I'm correct in saying that in the UK, even if you have a DNA test and you find out that your wife's son is not actually your son, that doesn't remove your the fact that if you're divorced, you've still got to pay alimony for them. You know, you've still got to pay money to child support, which is ridiculous if it's not your child. You know.
Yeah,
Well,
apparently that's
have-
the law.
Isn't that largely based on precedent? Like, if you got the DNA test and proved it before claims were made for child support, but if you leave it for years and then get the test, then it's kind of they kind of lock you into it and you struggle to get out of it.
Yeah, but
Could be wrong with that.
it just seems ridiculous. Grief, is your sound and stuff working now?
I hope so. Can you hear me, gents?
Yeah, you're perfect, mate. No worries.
Oh,
Have
good
you got
stuff.
anything? You got anything to say about this stuff about Harry and Markle and all this nonsense?
Yeah, a little bit, I suppose. I missed the last 5 minutes because I was messing with my audio settings. But yeah, I just think it's what to say about it. Like, I mean, I was listening to all the stories you were previously discussing. You know, that like this week's news cycle, should we call it? You know,
Yeah.
And it's just fascinating, and also, I mean, more so,
Scary.
it's so depressing how all of these kind of like little stories that crop up on a weekly basis, they all just seem to filter down quite narrowly and quickly just into just pure anti-white hatred. Do you see what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's you know, like some nonsense happens with two kind of like unknowns in the royal family, and they do this thing on Oprah, and it's only televised in the States, and the very next day the only question being asked is like, are the royals racist? But what that really means is like, is Britain, are the British, are white people racist? Do you see what I mean? And then the other thing that's going on in the news is the George Floyd, they're selecting the jury, which is fascinating. Okay.
I mainly, Reef, just to interrupt you briefly, I mainly noticed the $27 million that the criminal Floyd's family have got from the town where he was killed.
Yeah, there's always a lot of money raised, but I'm just trying to tie the kind of the entire. I'm not doing a very good job of it as per usual, but like I'm trying to tie the entire news cycle together, and it's all at its core kind of like to do with a white man sticking his knee on a black man's neck. Is the entire country and its kind of institutions racist? And then also a lady gets killed, and it's the only time it's kind of like really televised because, oh, lo and behold, it's a white copper, which helps feed into the kind of George Floyd thing, and then the royal thing. You know, everybody's asking, are we all racist 24/7? They all just tie in together into basically just kind of getting everybody to hate us. I mean, and I suppose,
but grief. Let's remember that George Floyd was convicted for holding a loaded pistol to a pregnant woman's belly.
Oh, totally. But nobody
talks about toxic masculinity about him.
I suppose just to wrap up that kind of ramble, like what I'm trying to sort of say here is that like anything could happen tomorrow. Actually, anything could happen. But like, I suppose the question is, there's all these kind of weird, nebulous, like sort of incidents that happen across the globe. But what really matters and what is causing us the most harm is just this kind of social engineering of the West through the media to just tie all of these things in together and have it always point towards whitey bad. And they do a wonderful job at it. It's absolutely masterful how like random events occur across the planet, and they can just sort of spin it to our detriment. And it's relentless. It's 24/7, isn't it? You know, doesn't matter what happens, it will be pinned on you somehow, whether it be in the subconscious of the nation or whether they be flat out blaming you for it, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I totally agree. It's like we were saying earlier. It's like a constant propaganda all the time.
Yes. Even when it's not your fault, they kind of somehow sort of imply, oh well, this is adjacent to you being your fault. You know, I don't know how they do it, but it's non-stop. And the main thing that Britain has been asking itself in the last week is, are we racist? You know, and we were asking ourselves that last week and the week before that and the week before that. And this is not a natural question to ask. Nobody wakes up in the morning, looks in the mirror, and asks this question. But then they turn the radio on, they turn the television telly on, they go to the cinema, they have a chat with their slightly woke girlfriend, and all of a sudden your day becomes kind of like sort of fighting this fucking accusation that nobody's really even asking. You know, it's all manufactured, but it's really sticking. It's really hitting home and affecting our people in a huge way. You know, and I'll leave it at that for a minute. Yeah.
Well, it's so overt. What you say about everything being targeting white people, I swear it was like more subtle before. Well, did you post a list of everything that was racist since the lockdown started? It was like statues are racist, the royal family's racist, this is racist, that's racist. This is all happened.
No, it wasn't me, but I have seen comprehensive lists like that, and you are shocked at the length of some of them. That Britpole used to have an OP, which was an actual list of links, so you can click on all of these. They're either BBC videos, articles, Guardians, and it was just a list of just basically inanimate objects that are too white, or like traditions that are too white, or like science is too white, reading is too white. And you're sort of waiting for this list. You're scrolling down the page. You're waiting for this list to end, but it actually doesn't. Everything on this earth is too white. You know, it's insane.
Well, no, the thing with this list that I saw, I don't know who posted it, but it was like these weren't even like jokey, haha, look what the Huffington Post has written. It was like, oh, these are all major news stories about how this is racist and that is like, you know, what you said. We don't want to waste time talking about the specifics of like Harry and Meghan, but what you said about like, we're really asking ourselves, are we all racist with this stupid question? And it only took about 9 days to get, you know, the unthinking people to basically say, well, yeah, the royal family is racist. And it's like, this was not a concern of yours.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's totally manufactured. But if I could just go a step further, because this is where it gets absolutely sinister. And either I, over the last few years, have started going slowly insane, you know, or I'm literally on the money with this. It's one or the other, you know. But what my theory is for how this world works, how this clown world works, okay, or at least how this white replacement thing works, is that because, of course, your natural response is to say, no, of course we're not racist. No, Harry, the royals aren't racist. You know, I regularly see, you know, talk radio, for example, is my favorite example. The comment section is full on a daily basis. 8 or 9 times they upload so many videos, you know, not always about race, but during the summer of Floyd, it was pure race, nothing but race. No other subject was discussed, you know. And the point is, your average person, your average punter was being asked, are they racist? About 9 or 10 times a day type thing. And obviously, these people aren't racist. Do you see what I mean? But they've never had to be. They don't understand it. You know, they only really see it as the ultimate sin, and they don't even really understand why. It's only because it's being talked about so goddamn much. But the point is when things like talk radio ask you on an hourly basis at this point, is this racist? Is inanimate object racist? Should this be banned because it's racist type thing? Everybody starts screaming, no, it's not racist. It's not racist. But what that does to the common man's skull, somewhere in the back, it reaffirms the lie that racism is the ultimate sin. You see what I mean? So basically, the common man is reaffirming, what I believe, in my opinion, is probably the only thing that can save them from race-based problems, which is a race-based consciousness. You have to be racially aware to solve racial problems, such as mass immigration. You see?
But yeah, I agree with you, Griff. But also, let us not forget that huge amounts of this, including to a large degree the Meghan Markle and Harry shit, is imported into the UK from America.
Yes,
it's not actually a British issue at all. It's an American issue. The whole Black Lives Matter thing was imported into the UK by people who had an agenda to push, and it had nothing. You know, a British white cop didn't kill the criminal guy whose family just got $27 million. You know, it had nothing to do with Britain. It was just imported into the country by people with an agenda to push.
If that raises a very good question, I wish we had an American on, because I'm just thinking out loud now. I'd love to know whether Americans, because they're built on this kind of civic nationalism, I wonder if in their media they're asked every day, are they racist type thing?
Of course, to some degree they are, but also bear in mind, Griff, this is specifically British and old Commonwealth stream. So it's like
Yeah.
I'm very happy for Australians and Canadians, New Zealanders, South Africans, and what have you to watch the show. In fact, I'm very happy for anyone to watch the show. But what I want this show to be about is about specifically British issues. And I think the point you made there is it's a good one, but it's stuff that's being imported from the USA.
Well, that's why I think that this this stupid Meghan Markle debacle it's actually quite good for like the British psyche, because everyone is offended by like this woman's basically kind of vomited on tradition here. She's swanned in and gone, I'm going to Jerry Springer this, and everyone's
didn't she say she hated having to curtsy to the Queen?
Dude, she said she had to Google the national anthem and that was, you know, strenuous.
Yeah. Maybe it's a failure of media, actually, at this point. Maybe it was all kind of set up. I don't mean the marriage itself, but the way the media are always going to spin it. I mean, I'm just thinking here, maybe Meghan isn't actually black enough for them to fully pull this racism stunt off. Do you see what I mean? Nobody's really buying it. It's like, well, and also she's a billionaire, or a millionaire, multi-millionaire.
Yeah, she's extremely rich, yeah.
So I think they've tried pulling the average kind of like, you know, let's do our usual race, you know, ask everyone if they're racist on this. But it's just too much of an implausible situation, because your average person's locked down due to corona and skint, and Meghan's not even convincingly black, so the whole thing kind of doesn't really work, you know.
Well, I just thought, you know, you've got this Meghan Markle, who is a duchess and who lives in a huge mansion with a prince, talking to a multi-millionaire American TV personality, Oprah Winfrey. And these people are moaning about racism when they are, like, compared to the vast, overwhelming, well, not like nearly everybody in Africa. What's their situation, man? You know?
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, it's a good point.
I got one extra question though. Like, I don't believe that Oprah looks at, as Grief is saying, I don't believe that Oprah actually looks at Meghan Markle and thinks, yeah, that's a black sister of mine, because she's not. So there's this false thing as well. They're playing this one drop game where like everyone is in the club unless you're white. And look at Harry, like he's ginger. Clearly, no one in his family understands the struggle. All right,
guys. I got to ask, Adam and Sojo, what you got to say about this stuff, please, gents?
Well, actually, I mean, I've been listening to you two talk about like the word racism, right? How can you actually disarm a word though? Like this. I think this is something we need to really
it's the key point, Ataman, isn't it? This is, I believe, the crux of the this is the keystone in the puzzle, and nobody seems to really want to have a stab at it. I think we should really dedicate an hour a week to it at least. You know? Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, someone said once. I don't know if it was in a YouTube video or a book or whatever, but someone pointed out that a lot of the left's key thinkers, up until about now, they're all getting a bit old now, like Noam Chomsky, who's that Hungarian guy,
Zizek.
Yeah, that's the one. A lot of them are linguists, like they study linguistics, they very much understood how to get language changed in their direction. And there was something else that Bowden brought up once, right? He was talking about the guy that wrote Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah.
And he was saying that like they just don't teach masculine literature in English lit, and that's the reason why boys aren't interested in it. And I sometimes think there's an easy solution there to really to get, you know, some to potentially foster some rearward momentum, you know, in our direction for language, and that would be to get young white guys into, you know, linguistics, English literature, stuff like that, into the languages.
Yes, yeah, totally. One point.
So hang on, wait a minute, Griff. You're our resident Jonathan Bowden expert. What are you got to say about that stuff?
Well, I haven't really got anything to say specifically about Bowden and the Conan speech, because that's one of the ones that I haven't really paid that much attention to, so I can't really comment. But yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree that you know, you're hard pressed to find any kind of masculine influences in popular culture today. But I think generally speaking, I mean, I can't really add to what's already been mentioned. I mean, you guys have already sort of pretty much covered everything that was on my mind anyway.
Cool. So Joe, you got sorry, Ataman, you got anything else to add to that?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm very black-pilled this last couple of weeks. I have no idea.
So I'll be honest. Like if someone calls me racist, which doesn't usually happen, but if someone does, as far as I'm concerned, all human beings of all races and all skin colors are racist to some degree. And like, you know, I lived in South Africa for 15 years, and I had a lot to do with Zulu guys, for example. And I like the Zulu guys, by the way, generally speaking. But they're certainly racist. I mean, they're even racist against the Xhosa, which is another African tribe. Never mind about other skin colors, you know.
Yeah, but
it's the human way of being to a large degree. There's in groups and out groups.
But I actually don't. I don't really think the one thing that I just notice about quote unquote people of color is just how, if I'm being honest, this will sound brutal, just how weak they are. That there's this victim mentality, and I look at what the complaints are and I think to myself, I don't really, out of all the jobs I've had, all the friends that I've had, could I actually really say that any of them were like hardcore racists? No. They're seeing shadows that just don't exist.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that. But I would say, and this gives me a chance to bring up something I wanted to bring up anyway. I would say that, like the Zulu, for example, are extremely proud of being Zulu. The Zulu and the Brits have always got on pretty well, partly because they're both like they have a monarch. Hell, excuse me, guys.
Someone call the fire brigade.
Warning, hot take.
Hot take. Take two spicy meter was going off there. Like, yeah. I guess while Duke's away, what I'd say about it is just an interesting little idea, because maybe one way of disarming the word a little bit. I don't know how you go about this, but there's quite clearly a very big difference between like a sort of, let's say, a quote unquote racist incident. People tend to imagine this between like two individuals or some small group is really making the life of an individual or another small group of individuals like bad, you know, type thing. This like, I can understand how this can appear like abhorrent in just general practice type thing. There's a very big difference from like kind of like racial policy at the government level. Like, say the world got so kind of messed up and there was a slim chance of returning a bit more towards like, you know, a sort of a bit more of a ethno-nationalism style thing. I know this is all hypothetical nonsense, probably not going to happen, but like the point is, as a collective saying, no, we don't really want like tens of thousands of, let's say, Somalians here. That's not a big deal. Like, really, like people could say that out loud. It actually makes sense. Do you see what I mean? So I think it might be about like taking racism from this kind of individual, which is always seen as kind of like bullying or abuse or like a fight, you know, violence type thing, up to the kind of like big group level where it's actually like, no, this group suffers if you sort of introduce this group, you know, almost talking about it in David Attenborough style terms. I think that would help to alleviate some of the like real kind of angst around the subject, because people always perceive it in like somebody's being bullied, you know, somebody's being discriminated against, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the case. It's just an idea, you know.
Well, the fear is you never, like, I mean, what the hell's the grooming gangs? That would strike me as the perfect sort of victim class situation. Where
that's a good one, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, it is, and it's almost like I think that you've probably woken as many people up to that as you're ever going to wake up, and everyone who doesn't understand that now is basically pretending. They're sticking their fingers in their ears.
I saw that mentioned a massive amount during all the news cycle with this woman who was killed by the policeman. Ooh. Loads of people were mentioning Rotherham and things like that, and I thought, oh, good on you. It hasn't been forgotten. It's rarely mentioned, but I saw hundreds of comments alluding to that. You know, the hypocrisy. Yeah.
Yes, that is actually one way in. Like, I know you said it was all hypothetical, but it is one way in which people can can change the dial, and it happens naturally, but you can also like consciously make an effort to do it.
Yeah.
It's when they platform one of these ridiculous, because this happened on talk radio on Julia Hartley Brewer when she platformed this ridiculous woman that was seriously considering banning men, right? Ridiculous idea. So what the comments do is swing it as far to the right the other way. Say, like, what about Rotherham gets upvoted to the top? And I think that's actually a really good tactic to jump in whenever they're putting someone ridiculous in and go as far as you can to the other direction.
Yeah, no, totally.
I mean, well, that said, when you say as far as you can to the other direction, you do need to pick the most extreme examples. Like Priti Patel said she was going to crack down on immigration. Steve Laws is filming several dinghies of people every single day in Dover getting onto coaches and getting shuttled to hotels.
Yeah.
Like, that is actually an insult to the voting public.
All of that is true, guys. Forgive my smoke alarm going off. Fucking smoke alarms.
No, it was cool. It was good.
No, I was just trying to say that, like, I lived in South Africa for like 15 years, and I had a lot to do with the Zulu people. And the Zulu people, a bit like the Brits, they have a monarch. You know, there's a Zulu king. And I just wanted to mention that the king, Goodwill Zwelithini, died the other day. And I was very sad to hear that, because in the 1980s, I actually met him once at Nongoma and had tea and biscuits with him.
What was his name, Duke? Can we get an F in the chat for King Zoom? What was he called? Zumbini?
No, his name was Goodwill Zwelithini.
Oh, right. Can we get an F in the chat for him?
And he was a nice chap. He was a nice chap. I had tea and biscuits with him. And he normally walked around like in really flash Italian suits that I certainly couldn't afford. But like occasionally you get done up in all his Zulu regalia and this kind of stuff. And he was a nice guy. And I remember him walking past all these old Zulu, because like the Zulu guys would still go and see him to settle like disputes and so on. And all these old Zulu guys were sitting there. And as he was walking up to his place in Nongoma, which was like this big compound, nice house, all these old Zulu blokes, as he walks by, are going, Bayeti Ngozi, and all this kind of stuff, which means, you know, hail to the king, this kind of stuff. And I was very sad to hear him die the other day. And in particular, because he was one of the leading guys who supported the preservation of the white rhino in South Africa. Like he did a lot to try and go against poaching for rhino horn, which is mainly to do with the bloody Chinese and all that stuff, you know. So yeah, but the Zulu guys, like when you say, well, sorry, when Sojo said that a lot of black guys are fragile, I think a lot of black guys in Western nations are fragile. I don't think the Zulu people, for example, are particularly fragile. And let us also always remember that the majority of the Zulu people do not support the ANC in South Africa today. They have their own party, the Inkatha Freedom Party. And actually, the Zulu are doing quite a lot of stuff to cooperate with the Afrikaner people there, because they have many of the same threats from the ANC.
Yeah, I reckon. I think you've both definitely got a point there. I'd just say that everybody's a victim of some form of propaganda, you know, and you know, I mean, blacks, you hear about them complain about it every time they're on the radio, that they're being instilled with a victim mentality, and you know, and they don't really like it. Those are the sort of conservative ink type sort of black, but usually very pretty black ladies that they wheel out on talk radio, things like that. But you know, I don't know about fragile. I just think everybody has had such a number done on them because, you know, number one reason, it's always this toxic media, isn't it? You know, so I don't really know. I think once you become a victim and you've lived that way for 50 years or so, and I don't know, and then this woke agenda comes along, or whatever you want to call it, and actually like people start giving you money and giving you like extra representation. I think, yeah, you probably settle into it, which would give the appearance that they're quite fragile and things like that. But I don't know. I think everybody is basically the victim of the same system, although we get a different brand of propaganda than they do. You know what I mean? And it's all perfectly planned to so that everybody's at each other's throats, you know?
Well, it's a battle between pride and shame, isn't it? And what you're saying about those black people that don't want the victim narrative, they feel proud of themselves, and they don't want to feel this shame, which is like, hey, well, your ancestors were slaves. It's a point of shame. It's telling your people that they're weaker.
But not all their ancestors were slaves, and most of the slaves that, for example, ended up in America and Brazil and all sorts of other places were actually sold to the slaving ships by other Africans.
Well,
and slavery is still, in some places in Africa, pretty much endemic.
Yeah,
you know,
I suppose, what's the most interesting point about this? Sorry, Amwash, I'll be quick. I guess what is the interesting part of this is like, why does none of that matter to anybody? Why is it that in the here and now, in 2021, and for some years, and definitely it's in our foreseeable future, why is hating Whitey kind of like the easier thing to do than actually like kind of just have a cursory look at some of these histories and basic truths? I know they're heavily suppressed, they're not readily found in the media, but like surely when you're having a bit of an argument with somebody online and they tell you a counter narrative, people don't want to hear it at all. I know there's multiple reasons for this. A lot of them are it's psychology, but like it's everybody just really wants to hate Whitey and kind of not hear a single shred of kind of right-wing opinion over even in private, having a quick look at the counter narrative, the potential truth. It's so popular, people love it, they kind of thrive on it in a way. I don't get it.
Well, I mean, the thing is it's been like, it all feeds down from the elites, doesn't it? And the elites aren't our guys. And like one of the things
absolutely.
You see a lot on on like Twitter, right? In our spheres of Twitter or anywhere really, you see this sometimes in like live stream comment sections. People will say, "Oh, look up 2066 or look up what this guy said about the Jews or whatever," and they'll go, "Oh, Google it." It's like, yeah, okay, go and Google it. You won't actually find what you want because
it's true.
Google controls that stuff too.
Also, guys, let me just say as an aside to that, like, don't use Google, please use DuckDuckGo at least. Like, just don't use Google as a search engine. It's
don't
crap.
Use YouTube.
Yeah,
well, yeah, you can say that, but my view about YouTube is like, I'm going to stay here until I get chucked off because it's the way to get to the audience. Like, we can ghettoize ourselves, and inevitably that's going to happen. And like I was saying last week, I absolutely agree that we need to diversify into other platforms. But so long as I can stay on this platform, I will, because it gets a bigger audience. And like the main thing that people like us can do is to help wake people up and allow them to see, look, you're not the only people who think this. There's a lot of other people who think it too. And there are good reasons for thinking it.
Also, I imagine in our circles, like people like us tend to have, on average, more thoughts going through one's head on a weekly basis than your average Joe, who's just thinking, well, what's on the telly tonight? I've been at work. John said something funny. That's about it. You know what I mean? Mother's Day on Sunday, by the way. You know what I mean? It's kind of that line of inquiry where we're thinking about, like, how do you literally solve demographic replacement and replace this kind of magic spell known as racism that has sort of cast its shadow over the continent of Europe and North America? You know what I mean? So I think these live streams are just, and for the chat as well, it's important for people just to be able to get this shit out of your head, out of your mouth, amongst friends. Do you see what I mean? I think that's healthy, because imagine having all this on your shoulders with nobody to talk to. That would be pretty grim, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, but I mean, with the forced lockdowns and all the rest of it, I think that's like, certainly for the last year, people have just become more and more isolated, and in many cases, sadly, more dependent on mainstream media. I mean, that's obviously a bad thing.
Yeah, that'll be true. Although, do you think that possibly, even though QAnon was a joke, and now looking into like COVID, lockdowns, all the science behind that, and then like, is this vaccine dodgy? Do you think that's pulled a lot of people onto the internet who otherwise would not necessarily have found their way there? I think it probably has,
It's an interesting one. I'd like to sort of cast a net and figure out like the demographics of lockdown skeptics, because it's not as simple as like
radio is up 30%. during lockdown, radio listeners. So I wouldn't be surprised if the internet is out big style, you know? Yeah.
What's interesting as well is like the prank calls. Some of them are prank calls, some of them are actually just conversations. But to talk radio that have gone on the last year, I genuinely do think they've dragged talk radio further to the right, because they're just like platforming racists all day, and they can't really kick them off because like even LBC needs callers. So we like it's kind of become a go-to place for like its listenership is much further to the right than it. And it
certainly is. But this is the problem, and this is why I've been so angry, and I apologise to everybody who sort of caught wind of that. But so angry recently because, you know, I miss the days where we used to have an argument with a lefty. You know what I mean? Whereas nowadays we've had a good look at the very, very stagnant, what I just simply describe as stagnant right, you know? And like I say, talk radio has really opened my eyes to that, because when you look down the comments, there's loads of activity going on type thing. But like I say, people are falling for the bait. The kind of Rupert Murdoch kind of, but I tell people it's just the BBC for right-leaning people. You're being led down a path. You see what I mean? And most of it, also the other side effect, you know, of what talk radio is doing to our people, you know, because the point I'm trying to make here, these are our guys. These are the people who are just about in the centre or possibly right-leaning. Do you see what I mean? That's why it's such a problem that these people are being almost as delusional as lefties. They're just a different brand, you know what I mean? By falling into this bait every day.
Grief, did you notice the other day that Sadiq Khan said he can't he can't engage with that actor guy who is very milquetoast.
Lawrence Fox.
Yeah. Sadiq Khan said he can't engage with Lawrence Fox because he is far right.
Yeah.
Now, Lawrence Fox is certainly not far right. Trust me, he's not.
He is, according to their logic.
Yeah, well, according to Sadiq Khan, sure, right. Yeah. But
no,
he's not.
But the fence has come down that far. Like, honestly, you know when people say there's
but
no...
It's not. Unwashed, it's not. It's Sadiq Khan doing what you were talking about earlier, pulling that fence down so far to the left. This is exactly what you were talking about earlier with the idea of blokes having curfews. Sadiq Khan is doing that to make anyone even slightly right of Lawrence Fox considered to be like an actual neo-Nazi or something like that.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, but they already are on that side of the argument. Like, it's amazing. Like, white people in London will still vote for Sadiq Khan. They will. It's the same as the grooming gangs. They are never going to notice. Like, I look at every single tweet of his, and I'm like, this midget is a tyrant. How is this?
Only left-wing white people will vote for Sadiq Khan.
Yeah, but they will never notice. They will, like, nothing that he does will ever wake these people up. So it's this idea.
No, because they're left-wing, and those guys are our enemies. Is the truth of it.
Well, also, you'll be finding the updated demographics of London fairly soon. It's census year, isn't it? God knows how.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And
so when he says far right, no other phrase scares minorities more. Do you see what I mean? Far right, it's kind of, it's going a step further than just saying this nebulous thing of like racism or systemic racism. It's saying far right. It's saying there's actually a group of boogeymen who are trying to get you. So he's probably speaking to the heavily the majority minority London. You know?
I agree with you, but I would like to hear what Ataman and Sojo have to say on this.
Sure, I'll mute up. Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, one of the things there's this big sort of divide, isn't there, between where the Overton window is and where the journalists say it is. So, like, I mean, when Sadiq Khan says that Lawrence Fox is to the right, within the sphere of the London elite, that's 100% true. Lawrence Fox is as right as you can go. I mean, it's kind of funny because I often, like, people will say to me about like Tommy Robinson, and I'll be like, I don't really like Tommy Robinson. Why are you bringing him up? And I'll say like, I'm to the right of Tommy Robinson, and they can't even comprehend that. Yeah. That's so far into no man's land for them.
So true.
They just don't even understand.
That's because the far right is a boogeyman, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, Sojo, you got anything to add to this?
So you no, on Wash, you were if you've got something to say, bring it up. I don't mind. Don't. It's like
it's just that,
if you're in the flow, go for it, mate.
No, it's just that there is pretty much no such. Like the far right means nothing, right? And it's used constantly by the media. It turns out when you go right to the far right, yeah, okay, it does mean something. There are some people that like think Hitler did nothing wrong, but you've got to go a long way to get there, and so much before you get to that point there's a curtain in front of the general population. They're told, don't look at Sargon of Akkad, don't look at Jordan Peterson. This extends so far, this far right veil.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I would just say that my view would be to just ignore it. I mean, first of all, who cares what Sadiq Khan has to say about anything? My position would be I'm not even going to acknowledge the guy's existence. But when it comes to accusations of being far right, well, it's like, okay, well, put your money where your mouth is. Where's the evidence of being far right? Cite the evidence.
Yeah. Also define it.
But they don't even do that, and they don't even attempt to do that because the left doesn't care.
Yeah, but I think by the same token, who cares what you're labelled as by the left if they don't have any evidence? It's just a smear. And in fact, I think, that is perhaps libeling someone as being far right and they're not. That we should, I think the right should start thinking about legal action in that respect. That if these kind of slurs are going to be thrown around and people are potentially going to lose their jobs, then this is why something like the Free Speech Union I think is a good thing, because they will represent people and defend them for freedom of speech. But yeah, like I say, just going back to it, who cares what they say if they don't have any evidence to back up their claim? Then there's no risk, is there?
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, like, the left doesn't concern itself with philosophy and things like that. It's like
I'm not sure that's true.
No, it really doesn't. It ignores philosophy.
They've got their own philosophy.
The left can be hypocrites all the bloody time. What happens on the right is we try and base our arguments on some sort of philosophy, or a lot of us do. And then we purely spiral around each other and say, "Oh, well, I don't agree with that." But the left never does that. The left just pushes and pushes and pushes.
Yes, well, I think that's a really great point. That I think the fundamental difference between the right and the left is that the right fight on principles and the left just wants power, and they will do anything to get that power. And in many ways, the right should have that same attitude, which is that if getting in power and getting what we want means lying through our teeth, then I would go to those lengths to do it. I don't care about lying.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure. I don't agree with lying. I don't agree with lying.
Oh, no,
but I do agree. No, I don't agree with lying. But I do.
What about when they were calling?
That's just like.
Whoa, guys! Whoa!
I'm going to back you up on this one.
I don't agree with lying, but I do agree that, like, people who are your allies or potential allies, we shouldn't chase them away by purity spiraling on them. That I do agree with.
Which has nothing to do with lying, right? I think people would frame it as you're selling out your principles somehow, but you're not. I think I've been thinking about this, and I reckon the widest tent that you can, the biggest tent that you could form would be anti-globalist, right? Above nationalist. You catch more people with going, we oppose the globalist.
No, I don't think that's true in the UK, mate. I really don't know. I don't think that's true in the UK. I think the UK has suffered from importing a lot of American bullshit from the right. I really do.
Okay. I mean, so do I. So, white nationalism, like that doesn't work.
I'm not a white nationalist. I'm a British nationalist, okay?
Well, you have to be.
There is a difference. I'm an old Commonwealth nationalist. But I'm not a white nationalist. I'm certainly not like a white supremacist at all.
Oh, Okay, so white supremacy is a really it's a dirty term that they're using as a nasty linguistic trick at the moment because it's supposed
yes,
to.
It is. But
Yeah.
I'm not one of those guys.
No,
I'm not a white
let,
anything. I'm a British nationalist.
Okay, what would it mean to be a white supremacist? What would that mean?
Oh, you'd have to be Ku Klux Klan or some bollocks like that, you know, which Britain has never had.
I think it's actually really mild. I think that a white supremacist is someone who believes, you know what, lads, we're among company. White people are just better, aren't they? Come on, we're just better. I think that's
You're
not allowed to think that.
Wait a minute. I don't say that white people are not better because I actually think they generally are, and especially in terms of the British people. Slavery has been endemic in the human society since there was such a thing as civilization. It's been endemic, and the very first people to stop it. The very first people to stop it were the British.
So would you comfortably call yourself a British supremacist?
Yeah, absolutely, always.
Cool. Nice.
Absolutely, always.
Yeah, but what's important here, just quickly, gents, is the supremacist bit and how it's perceived. It doesn't matter what you stick in front of it. You could be a purple supremacist. It really doesn't matter. It's the way that your enemies or the people you wish to reason with in the future, it's the way they perceive it, and they've got all of these words. Supremacist is up there, isn't it? You know, because they don't see it as you think you're better in some way. That's the lowest. That's like best case scenario. They see it as like, no, we wish to dominate you. You see, and they've been taught a perception that we have done in the past. Just to finish, yeah, go on, Amos.
No, they did. Yes, so that's what I want to battle is this idea that a white supremacist is a white guy that wants white people to rule over the world's population and subjugate other people, which no one actually believes. But I think it's just you're not allowed to believe.
I don't know. The British Empire was pretty cool.
It was.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. No, I think that's a nice stern position to take.
Supremacy is a very silly one. It's not really something. I mean, by all means, talk about it to your heart's content. But the funny thing is we're actually the only group who are being rapidly demographically replaced. So sort of the notion that we could even dare be called supremacist. I know in the minds of brown people, it's perceived that every business, everything is owned by rich white men, and that's true, but not for much longer. Do you see what I mean? We don't really have the stock to replace those people, you know. Obviously a lot of those people are Jewish, but let's leave that aside because they can't tell the difference. You see what I mean? But it's there's no point talking about supremacy because we're actually we're on the way out of here. Do you see what I mean?
Well, okay, no,
hang on, Grief. We're not on the way out of here.
We're not.
No, we're not. I don't believe that for 1 second. I think
we got to steer the ship around.
I think that's what our enemies want us to believe, but it's not true. But the main thing we need to do is kind of get our replacement breeding rates up above 2.5. That's the main thing we've got to do.
Is that you think that's the main thing? That numbers are the only thing.
Whoa, Sojo. What I think is we have to do two things. We firstly have to stop mass third world immigration into Western nations. The second thing we have to do is get our birth rates up to 2.5 replacement level, above replacement levels. If we can't do that, then everything else is bullshit anyway.
I can't believe that you think that just the number of white people in a country is the only thing that matters. That is a byproduct of the problems that we're facing. But basically,
Go on.
Why the key problem is why is there a large percentage of people in our group who are basically homosexual demon goblins with these crazy demented ideas? That is the fundamental problem.
Yeah, there are. No, hang on. Okay, that's a different problem. If you
hang on, can I just jump
that
in?
Is
wait. Let me answer this, and then all you guys.
I actually didn't have a question. I was making a statement.
Yeah, I just want to say what you were saying there. I agree that there are a lot of homosexual, supposed white nationalists around. There are a lot.
No.
I don't think that's the argument.
That's not the argument.
Wait a minute. There are people like that around.
That's not the argument, though.
You can either let me finish, or you can either let me finish, or like I can cut you all off.
Sure.
I really, like, if you're going to say something, let me answer, for fuck's sake. I do think there are people like that around in white nationalism. I'm not a white nationalist. I'm a British and old Commonwealth nationalist. And I certainly don't think that we should be encouraging guys who have some sort of fetish attachment to the Nazis into our ranks. I don't agree with that.
Can I just quickly ask around the panel, because I can see exactly where this is going. How many drinks in is everyone?
Well, I'm on 2 coffees. I'm on 2 coffees because it's 9 o'clock in the morning.
I got smashed last night. I'm completely sober today.
It's just me. Am I on my own in this?
I'm the same as Sojo, but I've got a can in the fridge if you're feeling lonely, which I would happily crack.
I've had 4 pints and I've got 3 left. So
okay, I'm all right then.
Oh, so Sojo, explain what you meant then.
What I mean is that, yeah, sure. What I mean is that what good is it if we live in a country that's 100% white if 70%, 60% of our people have these crazy ideas?
I think
that's what I mean by what does it matter if the country is 100% white if people think that LGBT and all this gay bullshit.
Good point.
What does it matter if the foundation of the way?
Does that lead you towards like separatism? Does that sort of change your feelings about like, well, no, we must reclaim this space for ourselves, or does it actually kind of hint towards no, like-minded people need to relocate?
I am increasingly of that view. It's like actually, I'd rather be around people who think like me rather than being around people who are of my group that have crazy ideas.
I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, no one can be asked, right? No one's bothering with debates. You were saying before, like, remember when we used to debate the left? And at the moment, we're kind of discussing, right, how do you haul that 50% of the country that ought to be with us, but just don't get it? How do you get them on board?
Yeah, maybe one comes before the other.
There's no point. There's no point in debating the left because the left hates us,
and they're in charge.
I'm wondering if there's any point even bothering about that, like about most of that 50% that are on your side. Isn't it just more satisfying focusing on the 10% that like are pretty much where you are, which is what we're doing right now?
Yeah, I mean, we've almost already separated, but it's just at the online level, isn't it? Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, and it was also forced on us because.
Maybe one has to happen, i.e. there is a separation. I do mean geographically. I'm talking like, I know lots of people don't like this white flight idea, but like, well, let's just say hypothetically it actually becomes like necessary, let's say for our grandchildren or something like that, maybe you can't really change the general white culture kind of at a large level without kind of leading by example and actually moving, voting with your feet. And the phrase build it and they will come. Maybe that is the only way, and that the whole idea that you're planning to change a nation for the better and you only need 51% of people to do it as opposed to 49. Well, we saw how Brexit went. Although we got it over the line, there's still a massive amount of people who are ultimately permanently like very salty about that, so maybe it is a case of you need to get the hell out of there.
I don't think it's massive.
It's dwindling, Duke. I'll give you that. Yeah. But the point is, I'm just saying, maybe you need to physically remove yourself from the rot, and let's face it, we are kind of surrounded at this point,
Yeah.
All right. Well, that brings up something that allows me to segue into one of the points I wanted to bring up this week. Is that as I do before most of these streams. And the only time I do it, because I detest the biased brainwashing corporation, I had a look at the BBC news site this week. And one of the things that they're plugging, and all of the things they are plugging are basically either left-wing feminist or corporate globalist, all of them. But one of the things they brought up was that apparently there's been a report that the schools in Northern Ireland, the British part of Ireland, where the majority of the people are unionists, they want the schools in they say the schools in Northern Ireland are having inadequate amounts of sex education, and in particular, inadequate amounts of LGBTQ sex education. So what does everyone think about that?
Well, I think you forgot the SS in the LGBTQ plus, but anyway.
Yes. Just in time for the census as well. Just quickly on that, you know that they've included like your sexuality, and because there's so many sexualities, they've just got to leave a blank box so you can write whatever you want in there. Super straight. Come on, do it.
Hang on, that. Yeah, I agree, but that's not the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, no, sorry, Duke.
Why should kids in Northern Ireland or anywhere else in the UK or wherever, why should kids be given LGBTQ education at school, sex education at school? I just don't get that at all. Why?
Because LGBTQ people can't reproduce any other way, so they have to do it that way.
That's one thing, point. And also because we're importing millions and millions of Muslims who tend not to like them very much. So it's a last-ditch attempt at, that. There's multiple reasons, but all of them wrong.
What do you mean by that?
Well, you would try and teach everybody that gays are A-OK and don't worry too much about them if you were doing insane levels of immigration at the same time.
Yeah, but hang on, guys. Let me just explain something to you. Like I did 2 tours in Northern Ireland, British Army, and Northern Ireland, even today, is probably the place in the UK that has one of the least high amounts of diversity, shall we say. So they're mainly talking about like white kids, and they're talking about kids going to Protestant schools and also Roman Catholic schools in Northern Ireland.
Right, yeah. But so, Joe, do you think that's a fair point? I mean, the government would ramp it up. I know it's all part of multiple agendas, but would you disagree with that? That, if you're doing insane third world immigration, you probably better get your sort of, sex education sort of, up to par to try and tame a few of these blokes, Just an idea. I mean, I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I just... basically we're ruled by demented goblins. I mean,
totally agree. Yeah,
it's almost. I think it's almost a moot question. Like, why is this happening? It's like, well, because these people are insane.
Yeah, totally.
No serious country, no serious culture would be like pushing this to the degree that we are and the West is. So there's something that's just deeply wrong. Deeply wrong.
I would like to believe that the lockdown exposes that there is actually no opposition to any of these ideas at all, because the Labour Party is insisting that the government hasn't done enough, and I can't imagine that they could have done more. And the same thing applies to all this like LGBT crap as well, because the Labour Party is consistently pounding the drum that we need more of this. We've been under the Tories for 10 years. The kids are being turned gay by the Tories, and it's like that. You realize there's no opposition on any issue that we care about, and I think you can get people to notice that, and the lockdown is the best one, because there's no way out of this. Oh, by the way, there's also no way out of like your kids get an LGBT education. There's no argument against it. Did you know?
Mm-hmm. Adam, what do you think about this, mate?
Bring back Section 28.
Go on, explain for people who don't know.
I just think it was good.
What is it?
Prevention of the prevention.
No, explain what it is, man.
The prevention of teaching of LGBT. Well, what was considered then LGBT, probably just LG and B, to children in sex ed in schools.
Yeah, why should you teach that to children in schools? I just don't understand how anyone can argue that's a good thing to do.
I mean, you can kind of see how some of the politics plays through that, because Tony Blair had all that power and was in for 10 years, and then Gordon Brown followed up with another 2, and yet he never repealed it, not once. And then they just gaslit the Tories into repealing it, and David Cameron into repealing it.
Yeah, well, David Cameron was not a Tory, but okay, I agree.
Well, yeah, I mean, on that note, I actually like people call the Conservative parties Tories as a slur, and if they were actually Tories, they'd be significantly better than they are now.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah, agree totally.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think, this is just propaganda aimed at our children. The same thing with the much talked about transvestite story hours and little trans kids like dancing in gay clubs and having money thrown at them by vile gay pedophiles, which apparently is okay according to the left.
Well, but the thing is that apparently it's okay by most of the majority of the population, because there's a sizable chunk that thinks it's good, and then there's another chunk that just actually doesn't care one way or the other. So
it's because, once again, back to my point, it's because of how the media force you to view it. They give you a special lens to view it through. So it's not that it's okay. It's not.
I don't know.
Well, hang on, just hear me out. It's not that like the general public are kind of viewing this kind of monster reading a kid. Monster looking kind of tranny thing, reading a book to a kid in a library. What they're being told is that this is progress. It's like the image doesn't really matter so much. It hits you in the back of the
what, hell? But it's progress to hell.
No, of course. No, well, we're discussing the left, aren't we, Duke? They tell you it's stunning, it's brave.
Well, the left is hell.
Do you see what I mean? So, like I say, it's the way it's dressed up. If you had just provided the image alone and said, "Here, what do you make of that?" You'd probably feel a bit queasy. You'd be like, "This is a bit wrong." But when it's in the Guardian, when it's rammed down your throat, when there's documentaries celebrating this stuff with a really cool gay disco soundtrack and a high production value, and then it's movies, and then your favourite celebrities coming out as it, then all of a sudden it's a joyful expression of progress, isn't it?
I'm not sure. Grief, I'm not sure, mate.
I'm not talking about from our perspective.
I'm saying from general population, I really believe that most people would protect kids from child abuse, which is what we are talking about.
Yeah,
but this is child abuse.
But why do you think that, Duke? They don't know. If
how
that
do they
was
not know?
Because how is it?
It's not 1955, isn't it? You know, we're in current year, Duke. Yeah.
Okay, guys. Do you all agree that paedophilia is the worst sin? I can't think of anything worse.
Very close to,
yeah. But the American Congress actually voted on it, and racism came out on top. So,
well, there we go. That's the massive psyop that's going on at the moment. Is that racism is the only thing that you hear about, and it's the worst sin. But the worst sin, as far as I'm concerned, is actually paedophilia, which is being continually normalized in all directions, whether it's the school, whether it's this map trend that appears to be a thing, whether it's cuties. Like, this is continually happening, and I think the two are connected. I think because paedophilia is the worst one, they're putting in like another sin above it, and it just fucks with you.
It a bit. Yeah.
Because
that's an interesting angle. I'd never considered that. That's very interesting.
Okay, you know what?
All right, good, guys, good. How do we fight back against this particular thing? I'd like everyone on starting with Unwashed, and then I'll do Adam, and then Grief, and then Sojo. How can we fight against this evil?
Homeschool. Done.
Yeah, don't disagree.
That's my only suggestion for this.
Because
teachers are evil. They just are.
Well, they're very left wing, certainly, which is
the
same
evil.
thing.
That's what I said.
Thing. Yeah, same thing. Adam?
Actually, I was going to basically say the same thing. It's kind of probably a bit unrealistic as a sort of final solution, but it's I won't take that back.
Freudian slip there.
But at the same time, like you can also tie homeschooling into so many other solutions for so many other things. I mean, I kind of like the idea of parasitism as a strategy, and I think you can absolutely do that with homeschooling. I mean, if you look at like the Jewish communities, they will, for example, take from the state with one hand and then give back to their community with the other, in especially for education. And we don't do that, and I think that's a massive mistake on our part.
Yeah.
Grief. 5 minute limit. Grief.
Sorry, buddy. Yeah, I'll get better. Listen, I'm out of touch. I'm out of practice. What's the question? How do we sort of stop our children from being sexualized?
How do we stop children being given vile sexual propaganda at school?
Well, I guess simple answer to that, you just don't send them there in the first place. I wish I could come up with something more than the other chaps, but if you send the kid to the place where it happens, it'll happen, simple as that.
We've lost him. Do you notice?
Yeah, unfortunate. Yeah.
No,
what was your point? Unwatched just before. That was what were you on to?
Yeah, okay. So the way to tie that like racism versus paedophilia thing together quite simply is that Prince Andrew is both, and the press are more concerned about the racism than the paedophilia.
Yeah, that's smart. That's a hot take, probably. Yeah.
I saw someone tweet that, and I was like, "Ooh, that actually reveals pretty much everything."
Yeah, there's not a lot you can do with it, and it doesn't exactly do us any favors. But it's a hot take, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I find the royal thing a bit like confusing at the moment because like I hate them, but in this scenario, it's like, do we have to support them? I don't really know. It's all fake and gay, isn't it?
Well, that's it. I don't really live my life for sort of addressing the issues anymore. I just try and gauge the public's reaction. It's all I'm interested in, and it's the most depressing thing you can spend your time doing. Just basically, I don't even watch the fucking the talk radio videos anymore. I just pause it straight away, take a little look at Ian Collins's rat-like face, and then read the comments and just gauge the kind of gauge the state of the nation, basically.
Gauge the rage.
Yeah. Well, there is no rage. There's just utter confusion and impotence from these people at this point, and what but they'll get better. Really listen, they'll get better. They're learning. They're asking lots of questions. One question I see coming up quite a lot. It's not a question. It's I see this all the time, and it's like, oh, the trouble with all this talking about racism is that it's actually diminishing the word, and it means nothing anymore, which is super sad and dangerous, And I just think, well, actually, that's progress. It's the wrong response, but at least NPC number 5090 is understanding it's diminishing. They don't understand that it's actually it's if you're white, it's actually to your benefit that this word is kind of becoming a bit murky, But and they're saying, oh no, it's so sad, it could become dangerous. And I'm just thinking, no, whoop-de-doo. And in a few years, I hope you feel the same way. You'll work it out eventually, lad. But it's taking far too long for it to be enjoyable. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's why I can't be asked worrying about like the general pop. I think, okay, work on your own networks rather than like worrying about dragging everyone else along with you.
Yeah, totally, dude. Yeah. Hey, Duke.
Welcome.
Yeah, that was good fun. So good. Anything to say about this?
Well, I don't really have anything to add on top of what's just been mentioned, but basically my view is that the only thing you can do is basically remove yourself from the society as much as you can. So that's either, and that's not just regarding homeschooling, but in all aspects of life. And there's a number of ways that you can do that. You can leave the country, you can participate in white flight, but my view is that there really isn't much other option, and you've got to do what's best for you and for your own children, and not worry about anyone else. Because if you don't actually have the power to help anybody else, then you've just got to help yourself.
Yeah, sound advice.
It's all you can do, really. It's all you can do.
Yeah. Well, I think the majority of our lads and lasses, know a few girls and that. So we're probably doing that to a large extent. We're just doing what we can within the confines of the current status quo and current year, really, And I guess what we're doing is just analysing, looking for clues, looking for little high points, and things to just talk about and bond over. Because let's face it, as soon as you walk out your door, it's just wall-to-wall lefties, isn't it?
Well, I think what Sojo's saying about sort yourself out is like in the lockdown, you can either go one way or the other, right? You either go, fuck, this isn't too good, I'm going to sort something out, work on myself, or you just vegetate. Like, I think people are either really thinking about stuff properly and putting, because you can't just go to your like bullshit job anymore and live on autopilot because you've been forced to confront everything, or you just vegetate and do the Netflix thing. Yeah, I think that it's actually, I don't know. I've felt like I actually need to like work out and eat well and stuff for my own damn sanity with everything else.
A man's got to move, just got to move your body.
Guys, I just say like in the chat here. Okay, I'm gonna do this. I guess that's something aimed at Sojo. But let me just say, guys, look, when I joined the British Army when I was 18, and when I left the British Army in the infantry, people have said I don't mention my regiment. Well, I joined the Queen's Regiment, which was the remains of my family regiment, which was actually the Middlesex Regiment. But it had been folded into the Queen's Regiment by that time, and the Queen's Regiment even itself doesn't exist anymore. But when I left the British Army, I moved to South Africa, and I lived there for 15 years, and I spent 9 of those years in the South African Defence Force. And then I met, after I left, and I resigned when they wanted to send my regiment into the townships, because I was happy enough to fight in Southwest Africa against SWAPO, who were communist bastards. But I didn't want to go into townships in South Africa and actually shoot South Africans, particularly when I could see the way that the government was going. So I resigned, and then I went back into tourism, and I was running battlefield tours and tours around game reserves and shit like that. And I met an Aussie chick in Durban in the end of 1999 and moved to South Africa. Moved to Australia from South Africa. So you could say I was doing white flight, but I'm not really sure it would be realistic given I moved from UK, which in 1985 was, 95% white, to a country that really wasn't particularly white. I'm not sure that any of that shit is.
No, people just don't generally like the concept because obviously it's quite unpatriotic. It implies shame. It implies fleeing. It implies cowardice.
Except grief.
No, not in your case. Not in your. I'm talking about.
I moved to South Africa.
My family leaving London. That's what I'm talking about. We left when it got nasty. It got really bad, so we left. It's a cowardly.
By the time your
why
family
is it
left London, all of my family had left London already.
No, Ataman, I'm saying it's a cowardly move in the eyes of the kind of nationalist circle. If we were talking about as like, all us English lads, we're going to leave. We're going to go to Iceland. It's like do you see what I mean? On the at the grand scale, in a war type scenario, it's considered running away, isn't it? But no, my life was better instantly the moment we left London.
Yeah, I mean, who gives a shit what some anonymous guy on the internet saying who wanks off into a sock every night? I mean, just who cares?
Yeah, I don't disagree with them.
That's all of us.
I disagree with them. I don't disagree with that at all. I think, look, you can support your country, you can fight for your country. Like my son is serving in the Royal Navy, and now, so if Britain gets in a war, he's going to be one of the first guys who might get killed. So get stuff with that shit, mate. Really?
Yeah. Well, it's only an idea, isn't it? It's like
no, I just find these guys who like sit in their mum's basements and like never come out, and some of them are Americans pretending to be British, to be fair, but they sit in their mum's basement and they say, "Oh yeah, well you cunts are really cowardly." Excuse my language. When in fact, like they wouldn't join the armed forces if you fucking paid them.
Yeah.
Well, I reserve the right to always bully expats.
Right? Well, you can try, mate. You can try, but I wouldn't give you chances very much.
I'm the most anti-purity spiraling person going. Basically, do what you want as long as you're rooting for the right team. But at the same time, everyone deserves a kicking. But I
always say I'm the last Empire loyalist. Like all my life, I've either been in Britain, South Africa, or Australia, which were like all part of the old Commonwealth. That's one of the reasons I do an old Commonwealth stream once a month now.
Yeah, Duke, this will be highly controversial, and I apologise in advance. But if we go around the panel, I do wonder quite often, like, would you fight for this country in its current state, with its current, quote unquote, value set? Because I don't think I would.
Yeah.
What would I be fighting exactly?
Difficult, isn't it?
That's a big problem, isn't it? That's a big problem.
Yeah, but it's difficult because if it loses, what's going to happen? Like the next war Britain's going to get into, actual war, is going to be against China. So against China, yes, I would.
Do you know what the actual statistic is for the percentage of people that said they'd be willing to fight for Britain?
Probably very low. Probably very low. Probably very low.
Say again.
40%.
Better than I thought it would be.
That's a lot better than I was expecting, to be honest.
In Japan,
hey, do you know
what? It's 11%.
11. Yeah, but they did get nuked twice and forced to crash their planes into buildings. So do you know what I mean?
I got a question for Duke though. Like the war with China, that's not going to be that. We're already in it. The lockdowns are a Chinese export. It's basically shut independent businesses down, and the only products that can be sold are Chinese built in the entire world. Like we're already in it. There's never going to be boots on the ground.
Also, Ataman, do you know?
No, hang on, whoa! You're actually wrong there, it's going to be mostly a naval and air war, absolutely, but there's going to be some boots on the ground. But not
over what are they aiming to? What, over territory?
Well, you've got to remove China from the South China Sea. They've got to go, and they have to go.
Wait, so we're the offensive party here in this?
No. China have been expanding there and expanding there and expanding there, and later this year, my boy, amongst many other thousands of Royal Navy servicemen, is going to be on a British Naval task force, carrier task force, that's going to go through the South China Sea before coming down to Australia. And that's basically to prove to the Chinese that, no, bollocks, you don't run the South China Sea. And they're going to be joined by American ships, Australian ships, probably Japanese ships as well. And honestly, that's if Britain's going to get into another war, and I'm almost certain we are, over the next 10 years, that's going to be the war we're going to get into, is with China. And unlike, say, Afghanistan or Iraq, we actually could win that one.
I can't see the Biden administration putting up an offensive against China. Can you?
Yeah, Biden won't be there very long. And Biden doesn't run anything anyway.
No, I'm not. I said the Biden administration, not Joe Biden, but that appears.
Well, look, if America allows Taiwan to be invaded by communist China, America will lose all credibility, basically. And I just don't think they can afford to do that. Because if they take Taiwan, then Japan and Australia will be next.
I just see China as having this just ultimate power at the moment.
China. No. We can beat China within the next few years. We can beat China. If we leave it 20 years, then maybe not. But next few years, most of the Chinese Navy and a lot of the Chinese Air Force could be destroyed. And that's what that war would largely be about.
Okay, culture war though, like which might sound completely separate, but I think we're completely screwed over by them. Like,
I agree totally, mate. You're talking about we're going to get into a war that will partly support global homo against communist China, and I see your point, but if we lose a war against communist China, it would be even worse.
A globo homo and communist China, like, opposed?
Partly, yeah, they are.
Okay, they don't look very opposed to me right now.
Yeah, they are a bit. I mean, look, because communist China is like only notionally communist, really.
Mm.
You know, like the Chinese Communist Party is a vile organization, but China itself is not really communist.
No, I understand that. It's almost like a sort of buzzword.
Yeah, it's complicated, mate. But honestly, I just feel that if America doesn't support Taiwan, which is the basic deal, and China wants to invade Taiwan really, really badly, if America allows that, America and her allies allows that to happen, then next China's going to go after Japan and or Australia. And personally, I wouldn't think that was a good thing. And I'm not saying that because I live in Australia, because I live in the south of Australia, a long way from China. But it's got to be stopped, mate. It's got to be stopped.
Do you know how you can stop it, Duke? What you need to do is round up all the spiders and snakes you've got down your way.
No.
Yeah,
right, yeah.
No, honestly, that would work, wouldn't it? That'd be a win-win. Mind you, they'd probably eat them, wouldn't they? And then we'd all
eat it, mate.
No, well, they would. They would probably eat. The Chinese will eat anything. But no, I don't believe what Australians tell you about their deadly wildlife. There's not all that much deadly wildlife.
Literally anything in Australia can kill you, and is trying to.
Yeah, they just exaggerate, mate. They like it, you know. It makes them feel good because, like, they all these POMs think, "Oh my God, Australia's really scary." It's not. It's really not.
Well, prove it. Prove it by Googling and screen sharing Australian spiders.
Mate, I've seen less snakes in Australia than I saw in South Africa.
Okay, yeah, that place is a hellhole, isn't it? I don't know. I'm not a cultured man, as you can tell. I'm not sure. I just don't like spiders.
Yeah, all right. You're doing yourself soft.
I'm very.
You do that all the time. I've noticed.
Yeah, it's part of my shtick.
Yeah, I've noticed, man.
What I mean is, I haven't travelled very much, and I think that's on par with uncultured, isn't it?
How many countries have you been to?
2.
Really, only 2?
Yeah, and one of them I'm in now. So, yeah.
What was the other one?
America.
Oh, okay. All right. But that was one of, like, I've been to America a few times, but like it was never one of the countries I really wanted to go to. It was just like I went there with the military, or I went there because I was going somewhere else. To be honest with you,
yeah.
But I was never. I'm strange. I'm absolutely an eternal Anglo. I like America. Not so much. But you know. I think America causes UK many problems in terms of us adopting their ideas, particularly on the right.
That's an us problem. That's not a them problem. Why are we shifting the blame? Why are we shifting responsibility from us to them? That is like, you know, but ultimately.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I agree with you, Sojo. I do agree with that. But like, I never have. I always thought being born English and British was like the best thing to ever be born. I couldn't imagine being born to any other nation. I mean, I like Afrikaners in South Africa. I think they're really good people on the whole. But I wouldn't want to be an Afrikaner because I'm an Englishman, you know? I certainly wouldn't want to be an American rather than an Englishman. That would be like definitely like going down the ways as far as I would be concerned.
Do you remember when Richard Hammond laughed about, like, imagine waking up and realizing you're Mexican? Do you remember that line?
No, I don't remember that. What episode is that from?
Well, I don't remember, but I know it was on Top Gear. It was, and this was like agreed to be, yep, that's fine as an opinion. It was like, yeah, imagine waking up and realizing you're Mexican. And implicit in that is, yes, great being English, isn't it?
I found the clip. Do you want to play it, Duke? It's only 30 seconds long.
How do I do that?
I put it in private chat. Just do a screen share. It says that Richard Hammond hates Mexicans. So guess that this is it.
Okay, I'll see if I can.
good. There's good and bad racism, and this is really good racism, I think.
Are the Mexicans even a race?
Well, I think the British are. So
fair enough. Yes, fair enough. You got me there.
All right, we'll try and do this and see if we can. Hang on, that's not what I was trying to do. Share audio.
I think Clarkson rode a bike through Vietnam, didn't he? Covered in the Star Spangled Banner and playing Bruce Springsteen.
German cars are sort of very well built and efficient. Italian cars are a bit flamboyant and quick. Mexican cars just going to be a lazy, feckless, flatulent open leaning against a fence asleep, looking at a cactus with a blanket with a hole in the middle on as a coat.
Yeah.
Lazy.
Yeah, that's kind of based, isn't it? Jesus, like, yeah.
I don't know. When I lived in South Africa, like I had a last outpost of the British Empire, Natal, last outpost of the British Empire sticker on my motorbike, because that's what Natal was known as, was the last outpost of the British Empire, because it was quite heavily British.
Hang about. I'm watched. Do you think that because they always wanted to shut Top Gear down because it was too white, it was too masculine, and not very diverse at all. So they were really looking for a way of getting rid of it. I mean, I know it's a bit conspiratorial, but I wouldn't be surprised if the whole Jeremy Clarkson punching people thing was a little bit staged, and maybe the writers were feeding these people questionable lines so that they could cite it later for causes to be shut down. I mean, how else do you wind down the most popular program in the UK? You've got to subvert it, haven't you?
No, the other question is, why was it the most popular program in the UK? And I think it's because of comments like that. I don't think everyone.
Well, they were far and few between. It was a very white, masculine. Blokes love cars, don't they? Cars and birds. Yeah. I mean, not me. I like birds, but not cars. Yeah.
Well, no, the question, because it was like the biggest show in the world, like. And I was never obsessed with it, but like, how much was it really about cars?
Well, it was about banter, wasn't it? Banter, lad.
It was banter.
Yeah.
That's why they wanted it gone.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. No, we're at cross wires. No, I totally agree. Yeah. No, I just wondered, like, how did they get it shut down, mate? Maybe they fed him a few lines over the years.
I think Clarkson definitely punched someone.
Yeah. Okay. He was a Polish bloke, wasn't he? Polish producer.
Grief, I actually think you've got it the wrong way around. It's the lines have not been fed to anyone, but this has always happened. It's just been suppressed because that's what popular, famous, important people get away with. It's like footballers. Do you remember the case with the guy who went to jail for rape and then came back and was immediately signed by a club?
Oh, I do remember. I can't remember his name though. Yeah,
Chad, a Welsh fella. Basically, in this life, if you have value, you can get away with murder. Basically,
right.
And so, my proposition to you is that these things have always gone on, but they've been suppressed because someone like Jeremy Clarkson is very valuable to the BBC.
I see. Like they have a safety blanket put over all of their misdeeds because they've got to keep them the cash cow. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So when it's very easy to eventually get rid of someone if you just bring to light things that have always been going on. I see. That's my view on.
Yeah. No, good point. No, I was just more talking about the TV clip, and I was thinking of such entities such as Ofcom. You know what I mean? It's hard to get a dodgy word past them, isn't it? Unless there's a big conspiracy to wind this show down gradually and maybe even end it in some kind of shame or scandal. But unlikely. Yeah, I'll take your point though, definitely. It was a good show. It was, I couldn't care less for cars, but yeah, a load of lads, middle-aged, doing dad humour. It was great. Yeah, not bad. Yeah. Same with, my favourites were Robot Wars, Scrap Heap Challenge was my favourite. What else? Yeah, Scrap Heap Challenge. There's nothing like it. It was so good.
Bowser.
Yeah.
Charlie Dimmicks.
Yeah. Well, are you talking Ground Force when Charlie and Tom were and Alan Titchmarsh? Do you know Alan?
Well, I remember growing up. I remember being like 6 and knowing nothing but like, okay, this woman doesn't wear a bra. That's all anyone talks about.
Yeah, and Alan Titchmarsh writes erotic novels on the side. So you know make the Did you not know that? I remember looking. I lived with my nan. I lived with my nan in London briefly, and I remember glancing at a bookshelf once, and I thought, oh, all of these, they're very colourful, covered in like flowers, and I saw Alan Titchmarsh's name, and they all had tasteful titles, you know, like a summer evening, you know. And then you start reading it, and it's absolutely filthy, like really. Really quite dark stuff, and then it starts playing on your mind. You're thinking, God, my nan's 92 years old. She's reading this spot, you know. And then you piece it all together and like, God, that was Alan Titchmarsh from Ground Force. Like, it's quite, I had quite the education one evening.
The seedy underbelly. Who knew?
Alan Titchmarsh, lads, he's a right sauce pot. And what's worse is he's making all of our mothers and grandmothers up and down the country, you know, feel some type of way of an evening.
Duke, you can rescue your stream, mate.
I know it's gone a little bit off track today, to be honest with you.
I'm actually oddly comforted by that thought. I'd rather they were thinking about him than most other figures from popular culture. He's safe.
Yeah, he is safe. Yeah, safe.
Yeah, no. What this stream has done is made me even more certain that you really only want 4 people on a stream.
Kick me off then. It's not hard.
No. I'm not going to kick you off. I am kind of a believer in free speech. That's why I don't have mods in my chat. What I would say is, guys, let's come up with 2 or 3 ideas to how we could make our nations better. 2 or 3 things that we could practically do that would make things better for Britain in particular. But I mean also Australia, New Zealand, Canada, even South Africa. But I mean mainly I'm talking about Britain. Unwashed.
How to make it all better. Okay, I think the missing part of...
No, not to make it all better. 3 things to improve it.
3 things. 3 things off the bat.
2 or 3 things,
Well, okay, I'm trying to remember how you diagnosed the problem earlier. It was like we need to increase the birth rates and we need to like stop mass immigration. And okay, the missing bit of that is like is the nation's soul. So I think that this white thing has been cancer for these kind of conversations, and what you're doing here by being like, no, we're British, and even like putting the Commonwealth really high up there and saying, okay, me being British doesn't mean I'm isolated to those isles. It actually means like there's a long history to it. Basically, this kind of like pride is the most important thing, is people getting clued up on like what our country actually means, because what we're being bludgeoned with all the slavery, colonialism, racism crap is a false history, and it's really offensive. I think when you rip that off as well and go, well, this is all lies. Actually, you can't just parade around and say like we're going to change all your legislation to punish you because of this, when I can prove that it's demonstrably untrue. And this is very, very malicious. So I don't know. The main problem with like Conservative Inc., Toby Young types, and the Free Speech Union is that they don't defend English identity at all. And I'm a pissed off Englishman at this point, and I'm ready to do it. Like I'm perfectly willing to go too far the other way and go, no, we need the empire back because no one can be trusted.
Fair enough. Adam.
Oh, 3 things.
2 or 3 things, mate. It doesn't have to be 3. 2 or 3 things that would make things better, not make them perfect, because I think that's impossible now.
Well, I mean, I'm very much undecided on all policy, but maybe defund all the media institutions.
Certainly defund the BBC, in my opinion, but
dismantle the hegemony that universities have over the future of young people.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure about the third one. I keep saying to myself, I want to look into how Putin revived the church in Russia, and I still haven't got around to it. So that would be my third answer if I could find out what that was.
Fair enough. Grief?
I'd simply say opt out of as much as possible, and then rather than focus on critiquing what you have opted out of and don't consent to, you focus on building a superior culture, a superior community, and it will be small to start with. And if people find out about it, it may come under attack. But essentially, opt out and strive to just build something better that will attract people, like any product does, like any music does, like a gig, a festival. I'm not saying do those things, but like things get bigger and bigger and bigger. Glastonbury was tiny in its first year. Now it's a global phenomenon, because people see it, they find out about it, and they think, actually, this is something I'd like to try or something I'd like to adopt, So opt out and just try something new that you yourselves come up with, and hope to attract like-minded people, I'd say. Yeah.
Fair enough. Sojo?
I don't know. I kind of feel like going back to the 1990s. You remember the Tories used to talk about going back to basics, and everything's just dominated by race and women's issues. Let's get back to emptying the bins every day, keeping Britain tidy. Let's just do the basics right, and then not focus on this stuff that actually just isn't even important. I don't know, Duke. There is no magic wand to wave. There's no one issue. I don't know, mate. I really don't know.
All right. Well, my things would be, firstly, stopping mass verbal immigration. Secondly, getting Indigenous British birth rates up to somewhere around 2.5, so it's like above replacement level. And thirdly, I would support Kanzuk because that might be a way of uniting the real Anglo-Celtic peoples around the world, like in Britain, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, about you might be able to unite people that way and make us like kind of see that we're a greater people than the small-minded leftists and corporate global homo types tried to tell us. That would be my opinion anyway.
Yeah, no, good idea. I didn't realise we were doing hypotheticals. That's what I was trying to keep.
Yeah, it's just like a wish list, isn't it, of the things you'd love to see done?
Yeah,
yeah.
Obviously, otherwise I would have
that's why
kick them out. But you know what I mean?
No, man. Well, guys, what I was trying to say was like things that we could actually do that might actually make a difference. That's what I was talking about.
Yeah, but I could be opening up a can of worms here, but I'm not quite sure how you get the Indigenous birth rate up easily or anything like that.
No. There's no easy way to do it, man. I wasn't saying it was easy. I was saying it's what we need to do. Like,
white pill on offering is that, like, okay, no one can find a new partner because of these ridiculous conditions, and we're about to have like the vaccine apartheid where the vaccinated won't want to date the unvaccinated and vice versa. But couples that were together going into this, like, I've heard of so many babies.
Really?
So many people are having babies.
Yeah.
Just from
you think that, wouldn't you? With people locked up in their homes and not able to go out, you'd think like kind of like the number of babies would go up.
I think it will have. I think it'll be borne out in the statistics. I know of 2 this week that have popped.
I'd also say little bit of an add-on to that white pill is that birth rates in the 1920s and I believe the 1870s were both lower in those decades than what it is now amongst the white British people. So
we could get it back.
Yeah,
Well,
both times the birth
training.
rates recovered from that, so they can recover from this.
There is
Yeah, you
evidence
never hear
that people tend to breed more under pressure as well, isn't there? The sort of survival mechanism kicks in. So, and also the underclass and lower class breeds more, and it looks like the middle class is sort of potentially being, well, it's being messed with at the moment, let's say. So there might be a few more added to that number. No idea, but yeah.
Yeah, but the underclass breeds more with like single mothers and all this kind of nonsense.
Yeah, it's not the best breeding, but at least it's babies, you know. Yeah.
I think that's actually changed now. I think the upper classes have more kids than all the other classes.
The
underclass. Oof.
Guys, I think there is this thing that we need to get straight. Like, there used to be a thing in the UK, which I think was a true thing, called, in inverted commas, the respectable working class. And these were working class guys and women who were like, they weren't the underclass, you know? They weren't drug addicts. They weren't people who had kids from 4 different fathers. They were like respectable working class, you know? And I think we need to promote those guys more than we need to promote the underclass, if that makes any sense.
Well, the underclass just reproduce like mad. That's the problem, is that they're just shagging at 16 and having endless babies that go
Nobody's
on the dog.
promoting them, yeah. It's just a case of they're the ones popping them out, yeah.
It's just raw evolution that they keep having so many babies. Whereas like the working class that you're describing, I think it's still there and it's still pretty damn strong. They're just not invested in like the you know, our hoity-toity intellectual crap. They've got the same.
They've got the guys who voted Conservative for the last election, and the guys who voted for Brexit.
No, I know. They have the right positions on everything. I'm just saying that like they're honestly not bothered about getting into the weeds of all of it. Like that's just not. Which is why you need to aim for like mass appeal stuff. It's why nationalism gets too, bogged down in the weeds and forgets like. 17.4 million. That was a lot of people.
That's precisely why I don't do white nationalism. I do British nationalism or old Commonwealth nationalism, because the guys I want to appeal to are the Anglo-Celtic people who are British, who like founded and made Australia and Canada and New Zealand, and were at one stage 40% of the population in South Africa.
Yeah, and you want the. Do you reckon the working class doesn't feel that same, like they've had that national pride like severed when it would have been there before, and they just
I think they still have it. I think they still have it, but I think the media, the mainstream media, is absolutely trying to destroy it.
Yeah, they naturally feel it, but they're not allowed to celebrate it in any way. That's the thing. That pride is not allowed to flourish.
No, I totally agree. I think that's one of our problems. What do you think about that, Alan?
Oh, I don't know. No idea. I have to time out on this one, I think. So I just have no idea about that at all.
Sergio? Sergio just drove away.
Shit, sorry. You know what? I was muted.
No, sorry, man. I'm joking. Well, what do you think about like real British people still do have pride in their heritage and history, but they're kind of not allowed to have it by like the globo homo mainstream media and all that kind of shit?
I'm not sure. I think instinctively most people. We've got the data on it. We know that the majority of the public are basically to the right of the Tories and Labour on pretty much everything. There is still a residual patriotism within most people. Are they not allowed to express it? I'm not quite sure that's really the case. It's just that the state doesn't actively promote those values and that culture. I think most people do instinctively have that. They do instinctively have the right position, but it's just it's the powers that be that are the problem. It's not the people per se, which is kind of contradicts what I said earlier about people not really caring. But then again, what can people do? What can individuals do that aren't in a position of power, which is by definition the working class? Well, not a lot really. They just have to suck it up and take what the elites give them or give us. I'm certainly not part of the elite.
But we can have babies. I've done that. Okay.
Yeah, but again, you're looking at people don't look at having children and think, "Oh, I'm doing this to save England." They're thinking, "No, this is a natural part of the life cycle of life."
No, I get that. But what I'm trying to say is that there are things ordinary people can do. One of them is having babies. Another one is
I don't actually
supporting the end of mass immigration. Ordinary people can do that.
I don't think it's not that easy. I think most people do. Well, we already have the data. People do want to have kids. People do want to stop mass third world immigration.
Yeah.
The working class people, middle class people don't have the power to do anything about that. So there's nothing that we can actually do.
Well, that's pretty backfilling, isn't it?
He always is.
But that's just the state of play. What do you want me to do? Lie to you and tell you that everything's great?
No. What I'm saying is that people can, they can do the one thing, i.e., having children, and the second thing, supporting ending mass immigration.
Yeah.
They can do both of those things. Where you're right, of course, is that the amount of influence they'll have on that is limited.
Can I ask you a quick question, Duke, in a minute when you're done?
Go ahead, mate.
Yeah, just a little thought experiment or whatever. But what my time on the internet, which is quite a long time now, I'm not. Anyway, my time on the internet, I've realised that, or at least I've been testing out that kind of the black pill. We all frown upon it. We all try and avoid it, and often we sort of chastise and castigate people who sort of invoke it too regularly. Is that fair to say? I think it is, isn't it? We try and avoid it. But what I wonder sometimes is some of these black pills, and as Sojo was just saying, some of these pills are kind of reality pills in a way. I just wonder if in some of our circles we had a slightly more open attitude to some of them. I'm not talking about embracing them, but I'm just talking about hearing them. Sometimes things we've got to say are a little bit dark and often can leave everyone a bit stumped with no answers. But I just wonder, is it a healthy thing for a thinking man to voice some of these black pills so that we may then discuss them and hopefully dispel some of them, hopefully replace some of those with white pills? But I just think this culture of sort of no black pills allowed, I just don't think it's too healthy. I'm not saying that's what we're doing here, but it is prevalent sometimes, isn't it? Would you agree with that? And do you think maybe let a few of these black pills slip?
No, man, I totally agree with you. I agree totally. And Sojo was telling the truth. Of course he was.
Yeah, I don't mean
never said he wasn't. Yeah, I just think that a lot of average people need a bit more encouragement rather than discouragement. If that.
You don't want to black pill the normies, that's for sure. No, you want to boost their spirits. I'm just saying, amongst the kind of the learned, shall we say, the people who've been in this game for a while, for better for worse. Maybe Anyway, I'm washed. Sorry, mate.
Well, no, there's two forms of black pills here. Okay, what you're describing with Sojo is the same. It's the same way that people reacted to Nick Griffin when he said, "Right, flee to Eastern Europe. You're all fucked." People just straight up didn't want to hear it, and they rejected it, and they were like, "Oh, he's a fake, a shill. He's just trying to sell capes," because it was too much. They did. That's what happened when he suggested.
Capes. Yeah, I know.
There was that as well. But
bless swords from the Priory in Toledo.
Yeah. Now I think that really extreme stuff where it's just no, you can't do anything to mitigate the collapse, so stop LARPing is pretty useful, because it forces you to look, okay, where are the options?
Yeah.
Now,
well, somewhere in between that, it doesn't have to be you can't do anything, but look at some of these things head on and maybe discuss them in a slightly fairer light. That was my point. Yeah.
no, what I would say is useless blackpilling content is getting an update on the anti-white agenda every Friday, being like, "Oh, look at this Hollywood movie now. Look at the 50p diversity, booga, fucking everywhere." It's like that's no fun. Just looking straight in the center of the abyss all the time. Yeah,
that's a slightly different black pill, isn't it? That's the kind of just like you say, doom porn, and it gets everybody just in a constant state of feeling a little bit unwell and helpless, really. You know,
I think you've got to give people hope.
Yes, totally. Yeah, but not false hope. I think we've got to really pin down. Well, we don't have to, but it'd be good. You know, it'd be good to sort of pin down where it is, where it is on that barometer. You know,
Grief, can I ask you something? What did you think about the whole 37 thing?
I wasn't a fan at all, actually. But one of my main reasons.
Oh God.
No, I'm sort of an imposter here, aren't I? One of my main reasons is I think what some of you chaps are overlooking is that actually a large percentage of it was just simply a kind of gay internet vie for power, backed up by quite a solid idea. I agree with you, but actually I'd put 80% down to just a gay kind of like, how can I make my shit podcast better than this shit podcast?
So you don't think it was
5% of it to that?
All right. So you don't Grief. You don't think it was a legitimate? Let's talk about actual British nationalism rather than this like airy fairy.
No, I think that was the
neo-Nazi American.
No, that was just the vehicle that was the vehicle. Just the vehicle to fall out with as many people as possible, and thus.
Is that what you really think?
I think
it really looked that way.
Yeah.
I have to back it up.
Wait a minute, guys.
I'm not saying it's a bad idea, Duke. I'm saying I think 85% of it was literally just to do with that behind the scenes. Yeah.
Well, that's very disappointing if that was true. I mean, I first got involved with this shit when I saw that.
Yeah,
and specifically, I got involved with it when I saw the video that Sojo did part of the voiceover for.
Yeah,
that was actually talking about real British nationalism, and that's really what got me involved in this.
Which actually proves
in the first place.
37, doesn't it? That actually puts 37 in an incredibly good light, because that's exactly what it was designed to do, really, wasn't it? Like attract kind of real British patriot types.
That's kind of what I'm asking you, and you're saying no, you don't think that.
Well, because I'm putting it in perspective, and this is a deeply unpopular opinion, but basically that kind of demographic is a finite resource, and I will be living the majority of the rest of my life without that demographic around. So for me,
you won't. Not if you're staying in Cornwall, you won't. You're talking crap, mate.
Well, my granddad died a very long time ago. He fought in the war. You know, my dad is only one generation down. He couldn't give a crap about the war. And most people my age, we're anti-war. You know, I'm just saying it's a slope. I know this is deeply unpopular in your circles. I love all you lads. I respect you all type thing. But I've never been 37. And you have to remember that when I left the movement, it was because 37 hadn't quite been born yet, but the infighting, the kind of groundwork to lay the 37 out was ramping up, and I just thought, fuck this, I'm out, you know.
All right, well, I'm going to ask people about this.
And 37 is a good idea. No. It's a good idea. Just to finish, it's a great idea.
I agree. I agree, Grief. Adamant, what do you reckon about the 37 thing?
Oh, I still have 37 in my name.
Yeah.
On Twitter and lots
I still agree with it too. Yeah.
I don't know. It's funny because I never really saw like the idea of a 37 gang. Like it was just the 37 was just something you said when someone cringily threw out the 14.
Yep, absolutely.
And it had something behind it, but it was kind of a little bit fluid and a bit adjustable. I mean, the moment, I suppose, I didn't realise this at the time, but the moment you sort of tied it down to a gang, you very much tied it to just a sentiment of just being purely anti-PA and having kind of little beyond that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Although my thing with the 37 was it was British. That's what I loved about it. It was British, and I hadn't seen a nationalist thing that was specifically British until I saw the 37. That was what I loved about it. It was like this, hey, you can be nationalist and British. You don't have to be this like dubious idea of white nationalist.
Yeah.
You certainly don't have to be like a Austrian painter fan. You can be a British nationalist. That's what I loved about it.
So you're proof in the pudding that the 37 it works, it attracts people. One thing, and I'm not saying this in a derogatory way whatsoever, but I left about a year ago. I sort of came back. Obviously, everyone's anonymous in the chat, but I can see the way the conversation is sort of steered. Everyone's a lot older. We have quite a few older people with kids compared to, I think, back in the day we had loads of people in our 20s and 30s just shit posting. Do you see what I mean? So it had sophisticated the thing. It's a good idea. I'm just saying I'm not invested in any particular idea because I'm an absolute black pill merchant. I've just got the black pill in me, lads. I'm so sorry.
Fair enough.
See what I mean? So I never go along with a kind of a great idea too much. And I could see from a mile off that actually that was just going to lead to a ridiculous amount of trolling by grown men. And I just thought, nah, I'm not getting involved, you know?
Well, you're entitled to your opinion, and that's fair enough. Unwashed, what do you reckon about the 37? And did it do good or bad or whatever?
Oh, I've got loads of thoughts on this. I think Duke, because you're not you're not on Twitter either, are you?
Never have been, mate. Never
see, because you don't see Twitter and Telegram, you don't know the absolute cancer and just how unattractive 37 was as a prospect about a year ago. When Grief is completely right, it was just this bizarre bullying brigade. Like I believe it is ideologically very, very sound. In fact, I believe it kind of sorts out all the niggles that I previously had and that we all had to brush under the carpet. It's like, hey, we're all on the same page. We all want the same things. But this guy's leading the show. Okay, no one talk about that. No, you need to talk about it. I think the 14 versus 37 thing still hasn't been resolved in nationalism broadly, and that's because
I thought it had in British terms. I thought.
Well, no, because I don't think that
completely won. Really,
what won?
I think 37 completely won. Really.
Okay, but hang on. I think what the entire movement, if you sort of zoom out of the petri dish a little bit, I think what the entire movement on both sides is kind of, and I think that actually 14. I mean, these terms are fucking lame. You know, I don't even dabble with them. But like,
the 14 is very lame.
No, but the point is, it's all cringe and gay, lads. Come on, take a step back and have a look. You know, the point is that if this is a deck of cards, the racism card is going to defeat 37 and 14 together. Doesn't make a difference. And when you say you're going to hit the Hitler wall, you're going to hit the racism wall first, and you're going to hit it first every time.
No,
we haven't solved that yet. We have not solved that, Duke. So to then go over the country, go a few more country miles and start talking about Hitler walls and like, you know, kind of, there's going to be this barrier and this barrier. We are, all the while we're doing this, we are not talking about the very first barrier, the barrier that is in front of you every single day, and it is the word racism, like we were talking about.
Okay, great. Yeah. I agree with you, all right? But I will say this. It is much easier for these, they're actually racist. The people who talk about anti-white racism, they're really racist themselves because they're anti-white racists. But it is far easier for them to dismiss the 14 words than it is the 37 words.
I don't think they'll ever get that far. They'll just call you racist and call it a
shit when people racist because they're morons. But anyway, Grief, you interrupted. You interrupted Unwashed. I'd like to hear the rest of what he says, and then I'm going to ask Sojo, who actually voiced the 37 words video that converted. Well, it didn't convert me because I was always the same. But it finally made me think, yeah, I have to support this shit.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
well,
unwashed. Carry on.
right, so 14 words. We must secure the existence of our people and a future for white children. First
This
of
is
all,
from a criminal American who
that shouldn't even need stating. It's unbelievable that they've been using this for years, and it's like that you're in the enemy's hands here. He was an actual neo-Nazi terrorist. This is stupid. So get that out of the way first of all. But also it's so defeatist and huddled together, isn't it? It's like, oh, we must protect the white people. Okay. Whereas what I like about the attitude on 37 is that it also you can fight the culture battle on it as well. It's like rather than it being about white people, like you've got kind of that Peter Whittle, like, fuck you, the statues are staying up energy to it as
Britain
well.
is great. Britain is great.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, this is the thing. It's a much wider net. Like that conversation, which the Lawrence Foxes are all getting involved in. Like, he's got some really good positions on stuff. And
No, but he sorry, carry on.
Well, all I'm going to say is, like, the 14 Brigade will never countenance anyone who isn't, white positive. They are never good enough, and you can see that from, like, how they tore Sargon apart when on the rape joke trail. It's like they really enjoyed that.
I'm washed. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I have to at this point. The 14 guys were all about, oh, fuck me, Dresden was a war crime, but Coventry wasn't. Or the Blitz in London wasn't.
Yeah, Take the Knee for Dresden is a hilarious meme. Like, it's brilliant, because you guys spotted that, holy shit, on the anniversary of Dresden, all the far right turned into SJWs on Twitter. This is really funny. It just objectively is. So, yeah, fucking flatten that city.
Well, I wouldn't say fucking flatten that city, but I would just say that every major, every big nation in a war does bad things. Britain did bad things. Germany did bad things. Italy did bad things. Japan did bad things. America did bad things. But that just happened. And you know what? Dresden was a long time after Coventry and the Blitz on London and various other attacks that the Luftwaffe did on enemy nations. So, as far as I'm concerned, the Dresden thing is just utter bullshit, basically.
I think they watched Hellstorm the other night and reviewed it as well, and it's just like nationalism is actually, like, gaining steam now. Like, Delingpole is interviewing people that basically agree with us, representing.
Well, some of them, yeah.
Well, Pete, he's now discovered these circles, and I'm just like, look, this is going to catch up with everyone eventually. That the leader just can't stop watching, like, Nazi films.
I'm not sure that Dutton does that, mate. I haven't seen him do that, but I don't watch every single Dutton stream.
Yeah.
I haven't watched every Dutton stream.
But the point is, this is spent on 20 minutes discussing whether X, Y, or Z is a Dresden cuck, rather than discussing anything of importance. That's the 37 in a nutshell. Okay.
Well, what you can do, Grief, is you can start your own stream and you can do that stuff if you want to.
No.
Honestly, I invite you on my stream nearly every week.
Yeah,
and if you want to go and do that stuff, go and do it.
No, I'm just pointing it out. I'm here for the counter.
Good. I'm glad you pointed it out.
Well,
but I'm just pointing out to you that I invite you on my stream every week. And if you want to go and do, Dresden was terrible, go and do it on your own stream, mate.
I don't think about Dresden. I don't wake up in the morning thinking about Dresden or
Dresden, no.
Or Mark Collett. Yeah.
What have you been putting in that coffee?
Sorry, man. I'm sorry.
Please don't rattle him, for goodness sakes.
No, I do.
No, you're not. He's not rattling me. What are you doing? It's like annoying me, and I try my best. I try my best to be fair. Okay, Sojo, you did the voiceover for that stream, and let's hear what I think is going to be a very disappointing take on that from you.
Hang on a minute. First of all, I don't even remember doing a voiceover. What?
You did. You did.
But was it clipped from somewhere?
I don't know, man. It was an excellent video, which I can't find anymore, sadly. So it used to be pinned to my Minds channel because I liked it so much.
This is the Groiper Boy one, isn't it?
Yeah, it probably was actually. Yeah. Probably.
So that was actually, Ataman. That was probably clipped from the video, the stream that we did on the document where it originally came from, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, Duke. What's the question?
What do you think about the 37 versus the 14 words? And was the 37 basically positive?
Okay, well, there's a number of things to unpack here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, first things first, it was like literally just a meme that sort of spontaneously came out of the ether. Really, in my view, this is just my opinion, but it was really just a repudiation of the 14 words, and it kind of like grew and became its own life. Yep. But I think you also have to separate like the idea of it from like the group. So really, in hindsight, there shouldn't really have been a group, because it's like, how can an idea have like an organization and a hierarchy when it doesn't have one? So, I mean, like the things that Unwashed mentioned about like people spamming Telegram chats, like all of that stuff is true. But at the same time, it's like, in many ways, I don't know who the fuck those people were. And like, it was certainly, I never endorsed that. I think I even said on the stream with Unwashed, on your own stream, Unwashed actually, on DLive, that I don't endorse that. I don't support that. I don't think people should be wasting their time doing that. But they did that in the name of 37. But, does that take away from 37, the idea? No, I don't think so. You can't control what people do with an idea. So I'll defend it in that respect. But fundamentally, I think, the idea of like 14 versus 37, they're both gay at the end of the day. And it's a nice fun LARP, but
37 is less gay though.
It certainly is less gay, and it I like to listen to the video, not so much watch it, because I put Unwashed in there, which in retrospect I wouldn't do that now.
Don't back out.
No, I wouldn't put you in there now.
He wasn't in the video I watched.
In the first video that came out, he's in there as the
Unwashed got it in the teeth, poor guy.
The video I remember was all like beautiful English countryside and Englishmen doing good stuff, and with a nice English soundtrack behind it, and just talking about how brilliant Britain is, because Britain is brilliant. Like if we could only get back to the real British people, it's the best nation in the world by a million miles.
Like, conversely to that, there was recently a video on Calamity's channel that Mark shared out on his Telegram. It was basically a Collett monologue about like, well, what did we really win? Just shitting on Churchill. And it's got a huge number of likes, and all the comments are about how Churchill was just like a Zionist warmonger and all this. And I look at it and I'm like, that is the least inspirational thing I could ever imagine. Like,
yeah, but let's be honest, Unwashed. Like, Winston Churchill's war aims, insofar as he had any, which was not very far. First of all, Winston Churchill wasn't a conservative. He joined the Conservative Party because his dad was a conservative, after he had briefly fought in the British Army. Very bravely, it has to be said. Churchill was no coward. But he fought in the British Army, and then he became an MP for Oldham, I think, originally. And he was a Conservative MP. But then when imperial tariff preference came out, and the idea of imperial tariff preference was that goods between Britain, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and South Africa would have virtually no tariffs, whereas goods from America or Germany or France or anywhere else in the world would have a tariff. And the idea was to try and create a more solid British Empire, if you like, particularly from the self-governing Anglo-Celtic colonies. And when that came out, Churchill left the Conservatives, crossed the floor, and became a liberal. This is why most Conservatives prior to 1939 did not trust Churchill one fucking iota, is because he abandoned them, because he believed in free trade. And free trade is a liberal principle. It's not a conservative principle. How did we get onto tariffs, says Sojo? Well, because that's one of the most important things about Britain and the self-governing colonies, is because Churchill abandoned that shit. And Churchill, of course, had an American mother who was little better than an upper-class whore, in all honesty.
But really no, wait a second. Like, you agreeing with 14 that, hey, yeah, I agree, Churchill was crap in all sorts of ways that I can live.
I'm no Churchill fan, but I don't agree with them in the 14 sense. No.
Yeah, no. All I'm saying is, like, this kind of content is appalling for us. Like, there's no need to. It's more white guilt, but it's British guilt, isn't it?
Explain. You got to explain what you're talking about.
Oh no, I'm talking about the ethos of 14 is because it's white rather than British, and it's Hitler rather than Churchill. Actually, an awful lot of it is.
I detest Hitler. But Churchill, but I don't love Churchill.
No, you just wonder how much shame is actually attached to this position. Whereas I think what you're talking about is like, yeah, no, I'm not going to feel any of this shame. Because and I notice this in certain, like, there's people that just kind of love to revel in, like, in how shit Churchill was or how shit this is. It's the same as people that'll just do the anti-white narrative every week.
No, that's not what I mean. Look, maybe if you look back on this channel, you'll see my opinion. You'll see my opinions on Churchill. The thing with Churchill was that he wasn't really a conservative. In fact, he spent most of his political life as a liberal, which is to the left of the Conservatives. He left because some Conservatives in Britain were trying to create a tariff union that would have given, like, basically free trade between Britain, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, South Africa, but would have given tariffs on stuff coming in from the fucking Yanks and the Germans and the French and all these other guys. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do.
Okay. He did that. He also had an American mother who was little better than an upper-class whore, but he adored her. So that in World War II, when eventually Churchill became Prime Minister, he never could see that British and American war aims were not the same. Sometimes they agreed with each other, but often they didn't. And so when eventually Britain won, in inverted commas, World War II, we greatly had benefited Stalin and the communists, and we greatly had benefited America. We had done nothing to help Britain. Nothing whatever. The British Empire that Churchill said he loved, and I believe he probably did, but he couldn't see long enough into the future that what he was doing in World War II was going to destroy the British Empire. He could not see that.
Right.
I like the nuance.
I need to pop off because it's getting late and I need to get up early.
All right, nice to have you
Jay.
on.
All right, talk to you later.
Cheers, Atman.
Go on, man. But do you see what I'm talking about here, Unwashed?
I do, but the point I was getting at was like, right, are we going to be proud of ourselves, or are we going to be like ashamed of ourselves?
No. I'm not.
I'm not having a go.
I'm
I'm
not ashamed of anything Britain did in World War II. I'm not. But basically, Churchill's war aims were going to always destroy Britain and the Empire, and only help America and the USSR.
Yeah, but
that's a true story.
Yeah, but that's not really Colette's point, is it? I mean, Colette's point.
I don't care about Colette's point.
Yeah, but that's that's what we were talking about. I mean,
okay. Mark Colette is a neo-Nazi, or maybe an MI5 special branch operative. That's all Mark Colette is.
And but the question is like, why the hell are we talking about him again? Because this is.
I didn't talk about Mark Colette.
But it matters, and it's because like all of the nationalist energy got sucked behind him because he was the one to set up an organization, and everyone went, "Yeah, get behind this." And actually, oh shit, there is a real problem here, and I think nationalism was in a healthier position maybe a year or two ago when you had a couple of channels that were at like 200k,
maybe.
and they just felt like there was energy. And this is the problem. Is like, okay, the buy-in apparently is to agree with this guy, and it's untenable, can't do it, so something else has got to be formed.
I don't know, man. My opinion of Mark Colette is probably unsayable on the internet. But he's a neo-Nazi apologist for the what they call the Austrian painter, who should be called the really bad Austrian painter. He's that. That's all he is. He worries desperately about the British bombing in Dresden, doesn't give a shit about the German bombing of Coventry or London or anywhere else. He's a joke. And he also constantly gets fooled by assorted journalists. Honestly, my opinion of Mark Colette is he's probably some sort of MI5 or special branch asset. Because if he's not, then he's even more stupid than I think he is. Which is I think he's pretty damn stupid, to be honest.
So he's given up.
Yeah, he often does. But yeah, I don't know, man.
Atman doesn't think that Colette's paintings are that bad.
I'm still here, James. I'm still here.
Does he paint?
No, it's a joke.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
The misunderstood Leeds painter.
Yeah, Sojo's got to go. Sojo does that often, but I'm sorry, guys. I'm a British nationalist. I'm not a white nationalist.
Sojo's better than Brutus though, because at least Sojo leaves when he leaves, whereas Brutus, he leaves his icon live for 45 minutes, and you're like, is he coming back? It's his stream. Is the bastard coming back? And he's like, nah, I'm not coming back. Do
you know what?
At least, but hang on, guys. Grief. At least Brutus is stuck by his positions, generally speaking.
And Brutus is a great mind. He's a beautiful man. I really appreciate his presence on the internet. And 37 was his idea. And like I've always stated, it's not a bad idea. Just saying what happened, who ran with it, what it turned into, and its practicality, it can only go so far. So the only reason I don't sort of like speak about it in the same prestige as you gentlemen is because I'm not 37. That doesn't mean I'm 14. It just means, like, as Sojo said, I just think it's kind of gay. And in a year from now, maybe 2 years, my prediction is it won't be around and we'll be back to square one. So yeah,
dude, I can't be 37. They all hate me.
Pro-British stuff will never be gay.
yeah, sure, but I just mean the kind of the internet whirlwind that it was. It's already semi over, you know. But like I said, the idea
But
remains.
hang on, but the 37 pretty much destroyed the 14 stuff.
Did they? Like, who's 37?
Yeah, I would say they did.
No, but who's there? What was formed in its wake?
Well, me for a start.
Now you're not talking about the ideas. You're just talking about groups of people again, which is utterly irrelevant, isn't it? You know.
No.
37 represents a group of people. 14 represents a group of people, while the rest of the population are just watching the BBC. So you know.
No,
all right, but grief. The 37 won the argument very largely.
All that matters is what numbers got converted. It's like you could just as easily say Mark Collett beat Tommy Robinson after the
Mark Collett didn't beat Tommy Robinson.
Well, no, during that summer he did, and he probably gained about 5. Yeah, he did. Yeah, a lot of people bailed out of the Tommy camp.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
I could name
a
whole bunch of them.
I have my disagreements with Tommy Robinson, but like.
So
I think he's probably better than Collette, which is not saying very much.
Look, here's the point I'm going to make: is that in I think 2019, Tommy had a particularly Jewish summer, and a lot of people noticed. They were like,
I agree. Yeah, a lot of money involved in that stuff.
Yeah, and loads of people like James Goddard and Dion and Shazia and like lots of people.
Goddard is a joke, though. Let's be honest.
Irrelevant. The point is, they went from "Whoa, Tommy" to supporting ethno-nationalism and White Lives Matter. And when you say that 37 beat 14, it's like I was convinced and you were convinced, but I think that was about it. Ultimately, most people who are ethno-nationalists are still watching the PA wing of things, but also. To zoom out a little bit from that, most people didn't desert Tommy Robinson. He's still got like 35,000 or so followers on his Telegram, and he does his thing. There's no damage done to him either.
Has anyone done an audit into kind of like the difference in messaging between 14 and 37? I mean, I know obviously the main narrative is quite a big shift, but ultimately.
Neo-Nazi.
No, Duke, I understand what it is, but what I'm saying is, like, I think if the two main kind of story arcs, you know, the main disagreement, which was invented by 37, and thus 37 was invented. If those two main story arcs were kind of like just put aside, you'd agree on absolutely everything, which is the funny thing.
I think it runs quite deep.
No.
I think it runs quite deep.
No.
Do you want to become a minority? PA, let's say 14.
Mate, you're not going to convince me this.
Do you want to become a minority? 14.
You are not
the answer
going
is no. 37. The answer is no. Do you think there's anti-white hatred prevalent in your media? 14. The answer is yes. 37. The answer is yes. Do you see what I mean? It's only when you get down to do you sympathise, or have you kind of come to a bit of an understanding that you know about World War II way or the other? That's the only. I mean, enlighten me then. Tell me about it. Tell me. Talk to me. Sell me.
Grief. That's crap. All right.
Sell me. Talk to me. 10-foot
ladder. No, I don't need to sell you because, like, you can make your own opinions. But I will tell you that the 14 was not pro-British; it was pro-German, and it was specifically pro-Nazi German.
So that's the thing I said. If we just put that aside, what else is there? What else is there?
Leave that. That's a little thing, eh? That's a little thing, isn't it?
I get what he's saying.
A little thing. You are trying to no. Wait a minute, Onwash. Grief. You are trying to tell me that being pro the Austrian bad painter is like a minor thing.
No, I'm just asking.
No, wait. Let me finish. You are saying to me that is a minor thing compared to being pro-British.
Hang on. Well, that doesn't make too much sense. I'm not going to say it's a straw man. I'm not saying that. It was just a sort of philosophical question of like, if you just take the two narratives and just park them, everything else is
Let's
the same.
take the two narratives. The one narrative is from the 14 words and Mark Collett and all these neo-Nazi wanks. The narrative is that Britain really started World War II and poor little Adolf didn't really want to attack anyone.
Yeah, but in the discussion of demography, it's irrelevant. Nobody brings it up, do they? Watch, please. You seem to have an answer. Go on.
Yes, because I used to have Grief's position on this. Like when Brutus was making a video response to literally everyone every day. Like I tweeted at him once saying, "What the hell's this obsession? We're actually doing stuff. Why are you doing this? What's this?"
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and he responded to that with a 15-minute video. It was like one tweet. And he responded with a 15-minute video. I was like, what the hell is this? And it was him like bashing the door going, if you don't discuss this, it's going to catch up with you. And he's completely right, because now, like, I knew it at the time as well. I knew it when I was like at those conferences and in those circles, was like, how the hell have we all ended up here where like we're not all Nazis? When Duke says this bunch of neo-Nazis, actually most people haven't given it any thought at all. They have the position that you're talking about, Grief. They're worried about demography. So they've flooded to the guy.
Oh, okay. So no, I'm not going to disagree. Let me just clarify. So no, because I think I'm starting to agree slightly. I know I've still got a point, but I'm agreeing with you here, Unwashed, because essentially it's a case of like, so if the masses are undecided or not fully up to speed on X, Y, and Z, then if nationalists are going to lead them to a better place, it's much better that they are not Nazis and actually sort of, even if it's a LARP or even if there is a way of being proper pro-empire, X, Y, Z, pro-British type thing, you know, it's just better if we do manage to wake the masses, that they do land comfortably in the arms of people who are not associated with flat out Nazism. That's the gist of it, yeah.
Well, no, I mean, there's another detail to it as well, which is like, hey, if you're meeting up for a conference about how you want to like improve for the British, if you don't have this Nazi baggage, then maybe you won't have to hide the location of it until the day before, and maybe everyone won't be terrified to hide their faces at all opportunities, because what you're standing for isn't actually painful in any way.
I like the idea, but I think ultimately racism will just do that for you in a heartbeat. You know,
I don't at all. I feel comfortable being like, yeah, I believe what I believe, and this is my face. But I think if I was still signed up to this stupid Nazi train, I wouldn't. I would be hiding my face behind a white.
No, I agree. The optics with the red, black, and white, and all sorts like that, which I don't think would happen. But it would take for journalists to search people's telegrams and online history. Do you see what I mean? But I just still think this is a level of optics. Basically, I just think the entire thing. The problem with it is that it's a level of optics without addressing the very first layer of the optics game, which we are still losing on a daily basis. So it's to sort of like, I do take the point that if you're definitely unequivocally not a Nazi, but you're still trying to solve immigration, you're basically dining at the same table, because as we were speaking about earlier, the media are going to represent you. You will have zero representation apart from amongst your people. So I just feel the whole thing was kind of like, yes, a good idea, but basically you've jumped the gun. You're discussing things beyond your means, and in the process, the internet being the internet, everybody just started calling everybody else a cunt. You know?
I think they did, yeah, and that was what was so unattractive about the whole thing, and that's why I think it's actually still unresolved. I think that this does deserve a proper. The best that you got was Brutus and Horus having a chat. That was the most civil that this mess ever got. It's never got any kinder than that, and never come any closer to any kind of resolution.
But would you say it's been necessary and actually it's imperative?
But hang on, guys. The 37 won the debate.
There was no debate. There was never a debate. There was just Horus and Brutus had one chat.
Yeah,
and
everyone was
shit
slagging
slinging.
each other off, but anyone with any brain realised that the 37 was the right way to go for British nationalism because it was not neo-Nazi.
But they don't have anything to rush towards. Like, we have this stream, and thank you very much for hosting it and representing British nationalism. But
yeah, I've only been doing it for 3 months.
Yeah,
but
no, people
nearly
like
400 subs.
That's
You're doing very well for 3 months, buddy. You know there is an appetite for it, and yeah.
Yeah,
and
I
listen,
think there is. Because
and thank you for having me on.
interested.
And I'm sorry I'm controversial, but also it does make for a little bit of spice here and there, isn't it? And I'll get better at not interrupting.
Mate, if I didn't want you on, I wouldn't invite you on. So
yeah, no, I'm just saying thanks. You know, I appreciate it. I love talking about stuff, and I just try and throw the awe in because I think it makes for a better chat, or it makes for a better.
Maybe it does, but let's do stuff that helps our people win. That's all I would say. Because I want our people. You see, this is the thing. I want the British people to win and survive and to go on to another millennium.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I just want everyone
This
to
is
be
I
okay.
think the British people are the best people in the world. And that's why I was a 37 supporter, is because it was about the British people, not about the fucking Germans or any other, in inverted commas, white group. It was about British people.
It's still basically acceptable to be racist to people that are just next door, right? Like, there is no stigma against hating French people. You can get away with that. Whereas, like, if you hate black people, oh, good luck. You know, so I think the British thing works on that grounds as well. You can rip on.
Do you know what I think that is? It goes back to my point earlier, which is that basically, of course, it's okay to hate the French because once again, subconsciously, you are reinforcing the idea that basically that France is what it is today, which is verging on Algerian and North African. Do you see what I mean? So you've got this nebulous concept of France, and that's what the globalists want you to think. You know, it's okay to rib on the Germans, just don't mention that they're verging on like 65% Turkish at this point. Do you see what I mean?
I'm not going to unite you.
Guys, I'm going to ask you because I'm just about to go to the loo. Look at the comment I've just pinned here. And please talk about that.
I just want to make sure Five Liver knows I've been banned from YouTube because I always appreciate his comments, and I'll be gutted if he doesn't follow me over.
No, that's fair enough. But all I'm saying is, look at that comment. Please give your views on it for a couple of minutes, and then when I come back, I'll try and catch up on you.
Yeah, see, Stojo takes the "it's all fake and gay" line, whereas I think I look at it like Five Liver does. It's like I really like over-intellectualizing this stupid internet nonsense between 20 people. And yeah, I was like a convert to this. I was someone that thought it was all pointless and just trolling. But I also knew, like, hey, whoever they point the finger at and say, "Oh, that's just a troll," that's always a lie. They're always doing it for a reason. But I don't know what the hell, like, kind of people got attracted to this thing. It was just people that wanted to, like, shit on other people on Telegram and Twitter, which was pretty bad. I don't know where that came from.
Yeah, it's hard to work out. Yeah. What's that music? It sounds like someone's in Bangladesh.
Well, it's not my end.
Oh no, maybe it's Duke. I don't know. I can hear like sort of Bangra whistles and like carnival. I don't know. Maybe it's my end. I'm not sure.
Some little party.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah. I don't know. What Five Alive? Let's read it out. Sojourner Brutus took up the banner of bulldog nationalism. Then Collett and Morgoth denigrated.
Well, they chat on the flag, and they never use any. They never actually use.
I thought 37 was a reaction to Morgoth. I don't follow Mark Collett because his voice is just too wooden. I haven't tuned in for years. That's the honest truth. You know, I can't hear him say "these people" anymore. You know, it's fine.
No, it's when you spot that this thing, it could easily be termed anti-British, then you actually do sit up and go, hey, wait a second, what? You can't tell us that, like, not to use Union Jacks and Bulldogs. And
I don't think that was the flavour of Morgoth's video whatsoever, actually. I think it was severely misinterpreted. And Brutus is a much smarter man than me, and I would have to rewatch both of those videos again, but I do not believe
Oh my God.
Of Morgoth's video whatsoever, actually.
All right, Grief.
I'll tell you that.
Go on.
You continually say that somebody is much smarter than you, and you're obviously way not an idiot.
I'm not an idiot, but it's a fact.
No, but you push that shit too much, mate.
Would you say that Brutus is a smarter man than you? He's 10 years older, by the way.
Oh,
would you say, Duke, you're older than Brutus, but would you say that Brutus is probably a smarter man than you? Brutus is a fucking genius.
No, not at all, but yeah, all right.
Well, chat. Is Brutus smarter than Duke? Press 1 if he is.
Go for it, guys. Go for it. You can all go for it. I don't care. But Grief, you do that a lot. What I do know from Brutus is that he really admired you. So I'm not sure why you are taking this humble bragging position that you're doing at the moment, mate. I don't see the point of that.
Well, it's I don't know. It'd be nice if I could finish.
You do it a lot. You adopt a humble bragging position a lot.
Is it not very British to
it's not.
Self-deprecating humour?
Yeah, but that's not what you do. You do humble bragging.
I don't even know what humble bragging is. Yeah,
I think it's what it says it is, but I just don't understand why you do it, because like you're an intelligent bloke, obviously, and you try and pretend you're not, in the same way as you pretend like, I never read anything, but you obviously do.
No, I don't read a thing, nothing.
All right, mate. I think you're humble bragging there again.
Okay, well, I don't.
I actually quite like you, because otherwise you would not be invited on my streams.
Well, thank you, Jay.
I don't invite people on my streams I don't like. But let me just say this: you're trying to kind of drag us in a direction that I don't like.
I know. I do appreciate that, Duke.
I realise you are, and you are. Yeah, exactly. Because you're not.
Yes, but it's not with malintent. It's for my kind of love of movement, and also.
Well, I don't know what movement is it that you support, because like I support some things, but I don't support others.
I know, and you're a fringe movement off the original sentiment. Do you see what I mean? You have to understand that you're the fringe and I'm the normal person here. Do you see what I mean? I'm not 37, whereas you guys are in a very explicit and quite weird club. Do you see what I mean?
Well,
I don't think Duke's in the club, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm not really, because like there are people, like you will know, Grief, because you probably follow this more than I do. There are people who detest Brutus.
All of that
who are 37 guys.
No, they're not 37 guys. They're hemorrhoids and co.
They are.
Well, all right, you can
hemorrhoid grey.
Yeah, you can say that. But there are people in the hemi.
No, I'm banging on the money. I witnessed it coming. I studied it. You know.
Yeah.
I was part of it.
Tell me what Top Hat has done for 37 national.
I don't even know who that is.
Hang on, wait a minute. I would say Unwashed. I like Top Cat, actually.
I don't know who that is.
I like Top Cat. I think
he was a wanker to too many people, and
anyway, my dude,
listen, didn't work.
I love you both. I'm not talking about. I'm not going into the weeds. It's 2 minutes to midnight. It's been a pleasurable 3 hours. And Duke, listen, I love you. I love your perspective, and like, just ask Brutus. I was always a bit of a thorn in the side is the wrong word. I like sticking the oar in. I ask awkward questions, and not because these aren't questions I have pre-planned. I was going to say I'm not smart enough to think of them in advance, but you don't like
Yeah,
that.
but
do
that
you?
would be humble bragging.
Yeah, exactly.
Again,
So what I'm saying is, I'm just talking. When I open my mouth, I talk, and I'll come up with some weird questions because I've got a slightly different perspective. But the one thing I love is Britain. The other thing I love is you lads, and if there's any ladies watching, and I do definitely want to get us out of this mess. I want to work with everyone, and I think if everyone
well,
just
on that we can
that
agree.
flavour, yeah, exactly. I think, but the point is, if we keep that flavour at front and center, and the main prerogative is to get along with one another. We all get along, but I just mean in the wider circles, and don't red pill the normies. Inform them, boost them, lift them up. Don't denigrate them. I've been guilty. Yeah, I've been guilty of this. I've been shouting at boomers, okay, on talk radio comment sections. I learned within a couple of weeks, no, it's the wrong approach. They really don't like that, and actually they need your support and respect, you know. So I'm a merger between whatever 37 is in your mind and whatever 14 is in Mark Hollett's mind and whatever the hell nationalism is in my mind. And I'm watching this great bloke. You're a great bloke, and I can't wait for Brutus to come back because he's a genius. Yeah. And nice one, chat. Thanks for putting up with me, but I've got to go to sleep now, right, chaps?
Yeah, good on, man.
Thanks, Jeff. See you, Unwashed, mate.
No.
Cheers, buddy.
Well, there was that. There was that. Jesus, that guy can talk. He can talk. I'll say that for him. Like he humble brags, but he can talk. For fuck's sake.
I remember doing that as well. I remember in some of my old videos being like, "I'll never have the smarts of this person or that person," and people said, "Yeah, don't do that." And I was like, "Yeah, there's no reason to do that. There's no reason to just list off people cleverer than you."
No, there never is. All I try to do on my stream is have good, intelligent British guys. Like Arman is a very good, intelligent British guy. Sojo is a good, intelligent British guy who has a few things going on in the background that make him less good than he might otherwise be. But I like Sojo very much, and I'm absolutely like Arman. Arman's a mate as far as I'm concerned.
I think there's been a little bit of a filtering process between, like, first of all, who's obsessed with just being an arsehole, so we don't need them, and the other part of it is who can't take a joke, because you don't need them either. That's a sign of weakness.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. Like I say, like the people who come on my streams regularly are people I like. Like one of the guys I really, really like is Colin Liddell from the Affirmative Right website. Do you know him? Unwashed?
I do.
He's like brilliant. He's a Scotsman. He's not a SNP guy of any description at all. He's a really good bloke, and he was one of the founders of the alt-right. And when the alt-right started going totally neo-Nazi, he was one of the first guys who called this out and said, "Look, this is going to stop us winning." And
I think it's a very basic observation, and it's something that I just sort of had to like grin and not grin and bear it, but just like swallow this down and just keep it in the back for a little bit. But actually, one guy that went to the second conference, he pointed this out to me afterwards. I'm really good mates with him now, but he said, "Yeah, the ultimate problem with that conference is that the unifier in the room was not a love of your country at all. It was wink, wink. I know the truth about World War II." And it's just like you can't rally behind that. You've got to rally behind the country, not ooh, I'm a truth about the Jews. You know, it's horrible.
I totally agree. Hang on, I've just got a reply. I hope this is Sojo in the chat and not somebody else. Oh, hopefully it is. There you go. So yeah, I don't know, man. I
think I do, because I've given it loads of thought. This stupid little question of like, what the hell is this? And I do think it's as simple as like pride and shame. And there's like other channels that were sort of following the Tommy stuff a couple of years ago, where they got Union Jacks and Bulldogs all over everything, and people love it, and it's just like it's kind of judgmental to turn your nose up at that, to be like, ugh, it's like going stupid gammon.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. I think like a lot of the things we talk about, people don't even think about really. I just want the British guys to win, because we're the best nation in the whole entire world easily. And like, if you're born British, that's the best nation to be born into. And the only nations that come anywhere near them are like Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and back in the day, South Africa. So I you know, that's what I think.
With that in mind, you concede we've got an occupied government, right?
Yeah, the elites these days don't regard themselves, like people like Alexander Boris Johnson do not regard themselves really as British. Obviously not.
Yeah. Well, I think it even goes beyond that, because he's probably as good an example of someone being pro-British within that system as you're going to get. I mean, he's awful, but like it only gets worse from that point, right? You know,
I think Thatcher was better than Alexander Boris Johnson.
No, of course she was, but I'd like to believe she'd be appalled by what's happened in the last year. But I don't remember where I was going. It's getting late here. We've done 3 hours.
Yeah, no, it is getting late, man. I think that, look, this is a British nationalist channel. It's a British nationalist and patriotic channel. And the only people who will like it who are not British will be Australian, Canadian, New Zealand, and maybe a few South Africans. No one else is going to like this channel. And I don't care about that, you know? That, like, various Central and Western European white nationalists may not like this channel, and I don't care, because it's not aimed at them. Because I'm British, you know, I'm an Englishman. And that's the main point. I'm an Englishman. And England and Britain is the best nation in the entire history of the world, easily.
Yes, and hearing other Englishmen say that is really, really helpful when going through all of this like bludgeoning of propaganda. Especially because I'm younger than you as well, and like they really did a number on millennials in terms of like just making them hate themselves and everything around them. Like it was pretty intense. So just hearing people that understand our history and are proud of it it helps. It's really good for you. It's like having a good meal or something.
Well, I hope so. I do hope so.
I think so. I think it's a good way to go with it. I think that the kind of content where you learn a bit of something about our history is much more inspiring than just focusing on what's the worst thing that happened this week.
All right, Natman Prime. When I talk about the Commonwealth, I'm always talking about the old Commonwealth. And the old Commonwealth is Britain, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and back in the day, South Africa. That's the old Commonwealth. And I guess it would have included Rhodesia back in the day too. But it doesn't include all the black and brown countries all scattered around the world that these days claim to be part of the Commonwealth. Not at all.
How, of those countries, do you have any faith in Canada to do anything about this mess? I really don't. I have faith in
I know very good Canadian men. Like one of my best mates when I was in the military was a Canadian, ex-Canadian Army guy. I know many good Australian military guys, and I've known one or two good New Zealand military guys. And that's what I base my stuff on, is like the ordinary people in those countries are bloody good. Like there's loads of good conservative, right of centre Canadians and New Zealanders, even though their governments are disgustingly bad at the moment. Like, you know, when that vile scumbag shit traitor Tony Blair was British Prime Minister, there were still many British people who like didn't support him, you know. And I think it's exactly the same.
I suppose part of your argument there,
Canada or it's the same in Canada and New Zealand.
Yeah, your argument there is like, well, sorry, the stock is too good. Like, it doesn't matter how cucked and progressive the media and the government is in Canada, the actual people are still of our stock.
There's still good people. Yeah, there is still good people. Like Endeavour is a good Australian, a good Canadian channel.
He is. I met him. You know, I met him.
Oh, cool, man. That's cool.
Yeah, he came over to the UK, and
he's a young chap, isn't he?
Yeah, he's younger than me, but he's smart.
And, I haven't liked his. He's got a bit too far into the 14-word stuff as far as I'm concerned.
I love when he's talking about like an old film or something like that. That's really good stuff. I don't think I'd follow him for like day to day, or I don't know. He just reviewed some old films. One was called Gettysburg.
Yeah, no, I've seen that. Yeah,
I really enjoyed that.
No, I like him. Endeavour is a good chap, but he has, as Cadamon says, got a bit too close to Morgoth, I think, or Borgoff, as many of us call him.
I will put up a bit of a resistance to this and say, like, I don't think Morgoth's as problematic as others that really are shooting nationalism in the foot.
Man, I've seen Morgoth do really good videos. He made a great video about on a very old tree in England where some Danes were killed by the Anglo-Saxons. He made a great video about that, but he has attached himself too closely to the bloody neo-Nazi types.
Well, I think the neo-Nazi types swallow people up. Like Josh, when he was on the Delling poll, made this point, which is that as soon as you start making this content, as soon as you go, you know, I'm a white guy and I'm fed up with this, then if you get found by that community, they love bomb you. They give you loads and loads of positive feedback, say welcome to the community, and then you're in it. And then you have to reconcile, okay, how do I feel about this Nazi thing? Because everyone else seems to be on board with it.
Yeah, but Endeavour is such a young chap that I don't think he gets it, you know? It's like, I follow a Jewish guy, I can't remember what his name is now, but he basically got death threats because he said the number of Jewish people killed in the Holocaust was closer to 4 million rather than 6 million. And he got death threats. He's a really cool American bloke. And I think he's probably right. But you can't say that anymore because, like, if you do that, they say, oh, no, kill you, you know? Do you see what I mean? Britain didn't go to war in World War II because of Jewish people. Had nothing to do with it, whatever.
It started with Poland, really, didn't it?
Well, yeah, we gave the red war button to Poland, which was also a military dictatorship, just because, like, Chamberlain was pissed off with Hitler with lying after Munich. So, you know,
I mean, I think the World War II thing is terrible framing compared to the Empire thing. Anyway, I think whatever your view on World War II, if you decide that that's the starting point of the situation that we're now in, then you're kind of already fucked.
This is where nonsense. Yeah, it is nonsense.
Well, it's that video that really pissed me off the other day because it did really well around the nationalist circles. It was on probably more than 1,000 likes, and it is just like, well, for this great victory, what did we actually get? Forced multiculturalism, like the LGBT agenda. And I'm just like, can you not pin this on Churchill? I don't think that this is why
you could pin it on Hitler if you wanted, quite easily.
It's like, what are you doing? You're saying, okay, 2021 is shit, and it's because the British people did this. And
look, I'm washed, but the original sin of Britain, Great Britain, and the Empire was joining World War One in 1914, and most especially raising a mass land army against all British tradition. That was the original sin of Britain and the Empire, was joining the war in 1914 and raising a mass land army. Hadn't done those things, everything else would have been different.
No, I trust that, but again, all of this is like, is it so that people can be right in the end, or is it so they can win? Because this is our fundamental problem. Is like,
well, this is what I say is that, like, if you didn't want Britain to be in this position today, don't join World War One in 1914, which was done by the Liberal Party and especially Grey, the Liberal politician, and then don't raise a mass land army against all British tradition, which was to raise a big navy and only have a small army going in somewhere either where the navy could support it or with allies.
Okay, there's two comments here that I want to read out and sort of unpack something.
Tell me what it is and I'll stick it up on the screen.
Well, it's Five Liver and Cademan's ones. It's we can't do nationalism today because of Hitler. Hitler smeared nationalism with his bloodthirsty incompetence.
Well, he smeared German nationalism. Well, didn't smear British nationalism, as far as I'm concerned.
But the majority of the smearing was not done by Hitler's incompetence. The majority of the smearing has been done since Hitler's incompetence. And really, I think the reason we have this Nazi problem that keeps emerging in nationalism is because the Nazis are the most demonized people probably in world history, right? The most unfairly demonized people in world history. I think we can.
I don't know if they're unfairly demonized.
No, I think they are.
I'm not sure if they're unfairly demonized.
No, not at all. No. It's way over the top. You get like
Stalin and the Soviets should.
That's
be
not demonized. You get communists.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to try.
We've got communists in the
Stalin and the Soviets should be demonized more.
Yes, exactly. They should be. Whereas the Nazis are. And that is because it was a white nation standing up for itself. And that's the threat. So this is the reason that the Nazi problem emerges, is because people discover, oh shit, they're actually not, that ideology wasn't evil. It wasn't pure evil. And they attach themselves to it. And I don't know why they do, because I still feel fucking revulsion when I see all this.
Well, I'm not very fond of the Nazis, like mainly because my father was born in 1933, and I'm an old bastard, and my father's house was bombed flat by the Germans during the Blitz in 1940. So I'm not overly in love with the Nazis. So you know.
Yes, and I think most most people with like older relatives probably do share your view.
Yeah, I mean, there's hardly a family in Britain that didn't have relatives killed fighting the Germans. Hardly a family. I
realise my granddad's still alive, and I think he's 96 now, and he may be one of the last WW2 vets. He's still kicking.
Yep.
He was in the Navy.
Yeah, I mean, like, exactly. I mean, like, when I got married, I got married in a High Church of England church in a little village in Berkshire. And in the churchyard of the church we got married in, there was my wife's grandfather, who was a chief petty officer on an 8th War supply in World War II. So, and we used to go every November and put a poppy on his grave. So, I mean, you know, yeah, but like I said, I'm a British nationalist. Always have been, always will be.
You can still feel it as well. Like you realize that's what the Captain Tom thing was actually all about. Like it was hoodwinked and it was all for the NHS and we didn't like it and it looked kind of disgusting. But what was actually going on there, like subconsciously in the nation, was you're kind of mourning the death of that generation. It's like, yeah.
I don't think that's true, man.
I think they were. I think they were.
I don't agree. I think the NHS is a false god and a false religion that the wild corporate globalists are putting up today.
No, but it's like, okay, so that guy died and they were able to like use his death for some horrible popular like.
But old people die. Old people die. Okay, the average age of the average lifespan of a British guy is 79, and of a woman is about 82 or 83. And the vast majority of the people who have died of the China virus have been older than that.
Well, yeah, this was my point about.
It's a bullshit story.
What? No, it is a bullshit story. You know, this guy died age 100 and they convinced the country that it was a tragedy. Like, of course it's not a tragedy if a 100-year-old man dies. That's the opposite of a tragedy. Well, it's not. You can't frame that as a tragedy.
I agree, man. I agree.
But the nation still kind of viewed it as tragic, and I think that they kind of wanted to listen to Vera Lynn in that moment and be reminded of
how that and all of that is fine. But like Vera Lynn died at what, 95 or some shit? You know,
all I'm saying is that like that national pride is actually there. One of the most dangerous things is it being hoodwinked for the NHS because people naturally still feel all this stuff.
The NHS is just a con. It's a secular religion for these corporate globalists.
This is another one that happened, man. Was the you know when the clapping happened the first few weeks every Thursday. So the clapping is awful, right? We all agree the clapping's awful, but and every time it erupted because it went on about 3 or 4 weeks in a row. I live in the town which falls for this bullshit. Like I heard that at 8 o'clock, and I rolled my eyes and groaned and was like annoyed by it. But then after the clapping subsided, everyone went and checked on each other. And it was like the community doing it because everyone had been locked up in their houses and there's loads and loads of old people on this street. So they were literally, you know, checking that everyone was still alive and they weren't really supposed to. And there was actually like a really nice sort of community buzz. And it was just like, oh, you can't have this without it being, you know, some like deification of the NHS just tacked onto it. You can't just have people being nice anymore.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I like old people die, and locking down whole nations, and more importantly, destroying most small businesses. I think that's being done deliberately. I really do. I think if you can destroy most of these small businesses and the people who work for those small businesses, you're going to make people more dependent on the government. We are already seeing the government bringing in trials of universal basic income. You're seeing the governments increasingly talking about cashless societies. It's being done on purpose, man. You've got to be dumb if you don't see it is.
Well, yeah, that's my position at the moment. Is I judge anyone that can't see it. Frankly, you've had a year.
Yeah, you got to be really stupid if you can't see it at the moment. And I was noticing that, like, this week, they're saying, oh, well, now with that bloody 33-year-old woman who was killed by a cop from a armed cop unit, people can't do whatever nonsense feminist shit they were doing for her being killed. Now they should do it at home. And now they're also talking about, because it's a year since the British government basically turned most of the people of Britain into prisoners in their own homes, there should be some celebration for that. It's just amazing to me.
It's happening. There's going to be a protest next Saturday. I don't know that there'll be any nationalist contingent there, but there'll sure be a hell of a lot of pissed off people.
But there should be. You see, nationalists should be supporting those protests 100%.
No, they're scared of their faces getting revealed, so they don't bother. Lefties are much better at protesting.
Yeah, well, the PA guys, I can understand that, but like
no,
the rest of us.
I'm telling you, the lockdown is not going to get broken without the kind of lefties that like disowned me a few years ago. Basically, here's the deal. Okay, you got two types of lefties. There's people that are signed on for all the gender stuff, and they're Ramonas and all of that crap, and they will be pro lockdown. They're teachers' unions, the NHS, all of that. They suck. We're not relying on them. But there are also lefties that are even fucking further, who are obsessed with chakras and the third eye and chemtrails and vaccines and do not trust Bill Gates and do not like Boris at all. And I'm just like, no, this lot, we might be able to leverage this.
What do they feel about Sir Keir Starmer?
Oh, they hate him. These are like the Bernie bros that felt betrayed. You know, these are people so yeah, and they would never vote for like an establishment suit like Keir. They like Jeremy because he refused to wear a tie, and that was basically good enough for them.
All right, fair enough.
I don't know. Populism is slightly different to left and right, basically, is what I'm saying. And
yeah, there's some truth to that. There is some truth to that. Although I haven't really seen like hardly any pro-British people who are not right-wing rather than left-wing. But anyway, we've been going on 3 hours and 28 minutes, so I think I'm going to quit on this. And as I always do, I'm going to play us out with a tune.
Beautiful. Well, it's been a pleasure, my man. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, happy to have you on, man. That's cool.
On the 21st of October, before the rising sun, we formed a line for action, boys, at 12 o'clock begun. Brave Nelson to his men did say, the Lord shall prosper us this day. Give them the broadside, fire away on board a man of war. Let him die in peace. God bless you all on board a man of war. Let him die in peace. God bless you all on board a man of war. From broadside to broadside the cannonballs did fly. Like hailstones, the small shot around the deck did lie. Our mast and rigging were shot away. Besides, some thousands on that day were killed and wounded in the fray on board a man of war. Let him die in peace. God bless you all on board a man of war. Let him die in peace. God bless you all on board a man of war. May heaven reward Lord Nelson, likewise protect his men. 19 sails of the combined fleet were sunk and taken in. The Achilles blew up amongst them all, which made the French for mercy call. Nelson was slain by a musket ball on board a man of war. Let him die in peace. God bless you all on board a man of war. Let him die in peace. God bless you all on board a man of war. There's many a brave commander with grief he shook his head, but yet the grief had no relief, for Nelson he lay dead. It was a fatal musket ball that caused a hero for to fall. He cried, fight on, God bless you all on board a man of war. Let him die in peace. God bless you all on board a man of war. Let him die in peace. God bless you all on board a man of war. Let's hope this glorious battle will surely bring a peace. Another trade to England may flourish and increase. Our ships from port to port go free and turn the hearts of our enemy to Nelson's death and victory on board a man of war. Let him die in peace. God bless you all on board a man of war. Let him die in peace. God bless you all on board a man of war.
Okay, good night, ladies and gents. Thanks for joining us on Splendid Isolation. We shall see you next week on Splendid Isolation 14. And I say again, 14.